they're meant to fly. Planes, they ain't supposed to fall from the sky. But if they do, they'll leave behind more than a piece or two. Planes just be flying. I know you think I'm lying. The USA, they be hiding the truth, and I ain't buying. Planes, they're meant to fly. Planes, they ain't supposed to fall from the sky. But if they do, they'll leave behind more than a piece or two. They'll leave behind more, and I know you think I'm lying. The USA, they be hiding the truth, and I ain't buying. Planes, they're meant to fly. Planes, they ain't supposed to fall from the sky. But if they do, they'll leave behind more than a piece or two. Planes just be flying. I know you think I'm lying. The USA, they be hiding the truth, and I ain't buying. They'll leave behind more than a piece or two. They'll leave behind more than a piece or two.
Welcome everybody to the stream tonight, Secret Science Wednesday. I hope you guys are excited. I'm your host, Ashton Forbes. We're going to be talking about the science. Oh man, my thing's not set up again. Whatever. Science that is kept secret from us, from the public, to understand it. And tonight it's going to be great because if you saw the topic, tonight it's gravity waves. And also we're going to finish up, before we get to gravity waves, we're going to finish up watching the video that we started on Monday. John Ramirez, we watched the Trump-Elon interview, so we didn't really get to a lot of the science and the interesting stuff. So we're going to do that. We're going to read some scientific papers on gravity waves, talk about gravity waves. And then what else did I have set up? Can't remember, but I had something else to talk about as well. Earlier today, I also posted on the John Cyril negative entropy event where the device cools down. So take a look at that on my Twitter if you're interested. If you have an explanation that doesn't include the idea of the Dirac sea or the ether where the energy is being come from, I'd be love to hear your explanation. So far, I don't think I've seen anybody up there. Hey, Billy, no downside. Nice to see you. What do you think about Ilhan Omar? I'm not the biggest fan of Ilhan Omar, but I don't have any vendetta against her. I just think it's really weird that the Feeding Our Futures major scandal where they were stealing millions and millions of dollars from the federal government and not feeding any children during COVID. It's kind of weird that like everybody is Somali and she's the biggest Somali politician and a couple of them donated to her, and the whole program was only possible because she helped sponsor a bill that made all the funding for that become possible. Just think it's a little weird, that's all. But otherwise, I have nothing against Ilhan Omar, guys. Okay. What else was I going to say? Also, short delay on the Aaron Rodgers letter. I have it written out here, but I just want to put together like a couple minute video. I was thinking about doing during this stream, but I'm not really feeling it at the moment. Maybe I'll do it at the end. We'll see. Just want to be careful. Like I want to reach out to Aaron Rodgers in a way where it's like just another dude, you know, like, hey man, you're open-minded. This is why I want you to just listen to what I've got to say for like a minute, you know? Okay. And generally, guys, I don't really talk to the shills for the most part. I don't really care what people think. Oh, yeah. And then I have another scientific paper that I think we're going to end up looking at here. I'm downloading it right now. So we may take a look at this too here in a minute. Okay, let's do it, chat. Let's do it. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about real quick is that RFK is streaming right now with Ian Carroll. I actually want to listen to this for a minute, guys. And then we'll move on to the other stuff. Even though I know it's Secret Science Wednesday, but they're talking about AI on this call. Why is it quiet? So I'm curious what you guys think. Oh, they're talking about healthcare now too.
And some were coming at that from a health perspective, and some were coming at that from a saving government
Something
money
wrong with
perspective and universal healthcare type of idea. And so I've got David Breon and I've got Shannon Smith and I've got Patricia Regalia all here in front of me, but I'm going to read it in the words of David Breon, who said, and this is sort of kicking the ball to you, Nicole, and to you, Bobby, and then maybe we'll discuss it a little bit. David Breon asks, would you consider using AI to help revolutionize the healthcare system? Healthcare is one of this country's biggest expenses. Rep. David Schweikert had some amazing ideas that implementing AI can help reduce some of that spending.
I mean, absolutely. And I'll leave Nicole's thought a lot about this, but there are already medical informatics systems operating in some countries, for example, Belize, but other countries as well that have the capacity to do the kind of studies that, drug studies, for example, that used to take 3 or 4 years or even more, but to do them instantaneously. And for example, you can look at claims from HMOs that, for example, let's say there's 3 diabetes drugs in a country. You can actually look at the outcomes instantaneously for all of those drugs and decide which one, and learn immediately which one has a risk profile with side effects, which one is providing, where people have the longest, the lowest.
Okay, that's about all I can handle on this. So basically, what he's saying there in terms of AI is they can take clinical decision making, where the clinician, usually the provider, is like looking at what drug treatments might be applicable. Now, the way this really works is that usually it's a top-down approach. They have these order sets for all the different, not necessarily treatments, but like ailments that you might have that are common, and then the most common drugs, like the pharmacy will update those order sets based on whatever they have available, what the like current literature is saying. And then the provider just kind of picks like which option they're going to use. But generally, like they're limited. Now, theoretically, they can order anything they want because you're a doctor. But generally, this is like evidence-based medicine. So what Robert Kennedy is saying there is that you can use AI to like help have the AI make those decisions, like, hey, or to present information to the clinician. Like if you give your patient this drug, they generally have outcomes where like they live for 6 months longer or something like that. So, I mean, yes, that's technically true, but we've had that stuff for a while. The stuff I would want to talk about when it comes to AI is like, when are the AI going to take over the world? And when's the AI going to be able to figure out free energy? And when's the AI going to develop, gravity manipulation? Or when are they going to advance any of those concepts or prove that they're real or achieve what they call AGI, which is, what is it, chat? Help me out. Something general intelligence. Awesome general intelligence. That's what it officially stands for, guys. AGI. Awesome. Automated? No. Autonomous general intelligence? No. What is it, chat? AGI. What's the A stand for, though? Oh, artificial general intelligence. Thank you, chat. Thank you. Yeah, because supposedly, like, the difference between AGI, just for people that don't know, AI right now is, they call it LLM, language learning model, which the idea behind AI is like it can search the internet. It's like it's really good at Googling and taking all that information and presenting it back to you. That's like kind of what AI is right now. But you can see glimpses of it being able to do more than that, because it can generally take that information, determine what it thinks is most relevant, combine it together, and then present that information to you. But usually, even if you do Grok and like you say, show me the relationship between this and this, it'll be like, here's the first explanation, here's the second explanation. And then if they are related, the third paragraph will kind of tell you something like that. So you can still see the bulkiness of how it's operating. With AGI, I think the idea is that it's like really AI from what like the movies would talk about, like this, it's achieved sentience now, where like it's, showing creativity, autonomy. It's able to like kind of think outside the box in certain cases. I don't know that AI will ever be able to do that. but I think it was, I mentioned this before, Steve Quast. He was interviewed recently. Someone sent me the interview from like a week ago. Maybe it was last weekend. And he said that AI will always outperform a human, but a human with an AI tool will always outperform the AI, which I think is an interesting way to look at it because it's kind of like an up and down cyclical nature. Is that you make a better AI, and then when the human integrates that AI, now you become better than a human as well. So there we go. We just had a better conversation on AI than probably RFK is going to have on there. Also, no disrespect to him, but holy crap. There was a question earlier before I turned the stream on, guys. I was listening, and it was just all boomer stuff. Like, he was crying about how he thinks Twitter has him shadow banned and the people are getting unfollowed. Guys, I get the messages too where people are saying, oh, it automatically unfollowed me, whatever, man. There's not some big conspiracy on big Twitter to, like, you know, make people unfollow you. Like, they have no benefit in doing any of that. We're not, you know, Twitter is not owned by Google and these other companies, and I guarantee Elon Musk doesn't have anything there. So, you know, okay, there's some chance there's maybe some bug where, you know, whatever you unfollow, but it's probably mostly just user error. That's human error is probably what's really going on there. And it just comes off really whiny when you're like, I only have 3 million followers. My followers haven't grown very much. Well, it's like, well, maybe you should put out better content, you know, like, no disrespect, but you know, everybody's out here struggling. I got 150,000 followers, and you know, I don't cry because I don't get 1 million views on all my posts. You know, I just go, maybe people don't like that. Maybe I should put out content that people enjoy more. And then I go, nah, I don't really care. I just wanted to do science. So let's watch some science, guys. Let's see. Have you ever watched Paez being interviewed by someone else? Oh yeah, 100%. Before I interviewed Paez, I watched all the interviews with him. There was 2, I think, that I could find that were prominent. And then I watched the one after me, which was with alien scientist as well. No, guys, when you understand the physics correctly, and I don't like to say correctly as if there's only one way to interpret it, but when you interpret it the way that's consistent with classical physics as well as gravity manipulation, free energy as well, it's like you can tell which guys are legit. Like, you can tell which other guys also see it that way. This is another way to put it. And you can tell if you watch my first interview with Salvatore Paez, and we rewatched it like a month ago, you can tell that he's legit, that he sees it the same way that we see it. And he was seeing it that way before we even figured it out. We looked into it. And when I say we, I mean like this investigation. You guys have seen all my streams going through this stuff. So, you know, what I want people to understand is there's not somebody behind the scenes telling me like, this is how you should think about it. No, like at most I'm like, hey, what do you think about this idea? And they either like it or don't like it. But for the most part, like, all the stuff we found, all the conclusions we've come to, that's all just been independent, which is why when I post stuff like Dr. Greer saying that I believe he's right on all the technology, the reason I'm extremely confident is because I know the science that backs it up. And I can even list the scientists and the years in their papers that back it up at this point. And I'm just going to keep getting better. Frankly, I love it. I absolutely love it. So this is the other thing to segue into the next point. You're probably not going to see as much original investigative research on my part. Now, if there's some big event that comes up, like the assassination thing that came up, I'm probably going to be live tweeting it because I just think it's really important to get the information out like that. But like, for example, was it Brazil where the plane just crashed with the AIDS researchers or turbo cancer researchers or whatever? I'm not really interested in that, to be honest with you guys. I mean, maybe there's something there, maybe not, but you know, and I see the overlaps between MH370. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just not really interested in that. I just want to dig into the science more. And I think that some of that stuff you got to be careful because they'll use it to discredit you. If you're like, oh, every single plane that crashes is because of some conspiracy, right? There's already enough where they're crashing because there's a conspiracy, like the Iranian helicopter, president helicopter. So that's the reason why I'm not like jumping all over some of that stuff. It would be easy engagement, 100%. Like if I was posting that stuff, I'd be getting millions of views. I just don't care that much. So just a heads up on that, guys. I am going to be checking out John Archibald Wheeler. We may even be looking at that as soon as next week. We're probably 2 to 3 weeks away from checking out Wheeler. I'm probably going to write that down. Because we're also running out of content for our Wednesday Secret Science streams. Speaking of which, we should probably get into it because we've been hanging out for 15 minutes talking about stuff. Although I like at the beginning to just kind of shoot the breeze a little bit before we get into the hard science and stuff like that. Hey, welcome to the live. And also I should say, I should give an invite out here as well for people because I forget sometimes. So if you guys want to join the Discord, here's an invite. Discord's been popping. I haven't been able to keep up with all the messages. I've just been crazy busy, guys. But thanks for everybody for posting stuff in there, the evidence, because it's nice because then we have it if we want to go back to it for any reason as well. Okay, I'm going to close this. And I don't remember if I said hi to Gerald, but there we go. Yeah. There's the Discord invite, guys. Yeah, I don't really see the reason to silence cancer researchers and stuff like that. So the other thing too, guys, is that I don't really talk about the medical healing aspects of scalar physics. But when you start to deal with stuff like time travel and even gravity waves, like you could see there could be a world where these things work on such small scales that maybe there is an opportunity for medical aspects. But you will get very quickly censored on YouTube if you start claiming certain things can heal certain ailments and stuff like that. And I know the seriousness of medical misinformation in general. There's liability for everything. Hospitals get sued all the time, all the time. I know from being on the inside. So that's the reason why I don't touch any of that stuff. Even people ask me about stuff like the med bed and some of this other stuff. The best I'll ever say is, I don't know, maybe. But I'm never going to be publicly supporting any of that stuff or anything. First step is to prove to people that there's 0 point energy, that we can harness 0 point energy and we can manipulate gravity waves. Then we'll start worrying about, can we reverse the aging process and other crazy stuff like that. Yeah, Richard Feynman rocks, but Richard Feynman that's not how he spells his name, but that's close enough, Kimberly. Good work. Hey, PJ. Okay, let's get started, guys. We got a lot of stuff to go through. Okay, so we're going to play this John Ramirez video. I'm going to probably play it from the beginning again. Credit to Project Unity. I don't really like him very much, but his content's pretty good. He posts pretty interesting stuff from time and time again. I think that he's a guy, he gets a little bit too much into the whole metaphysical aspect, but if you're into that, get into that. Whatever you want to do. I say, follow your dreams.
My name is John Ramirez. I served at CIA from 1984 to 2009.
So 1984 to 2009. So people want to know how legit this guy is. He was in the CIA basically right after I was born. And he was in the CIA for 25 years, if I'm doing my math correctly there. 25 years. So John Ramirez was in the CIA for 25 years. Now, just as a heads up here, guys, I already listened to, I think, this whole interview. And I get a very credible vibe from John Ramirez. I do not get the kind of vibe where he's selling you some bullshit. And you can tell usually pretty quickly. Now, that doesn't mean he's necessarily not lying, but if he's lying, he believes the lie. I'd put it that way. He speaks off the cuff. He's not afraid to say what he doesn't know and what he does know, which is another reason why I think you find him very credible, or I find him very credible. So here we go. Let's listen. He starts explaining the U.S. intelligence capabilities, our surveillance capabilities, and the agencies and who owns each one, which is really important when you're dealing with trying to show that we know what happened to a Boeing 777 where we're just lying about it.
And in those 25 years, I was assigned to the Directorate of Science and Technology in the SIGINT field, and in the Directorate of Intelligence as a weapons intelligence analyst.
So he was in SIGINT and he was a weapons intelligence analyst. That seems relevant to our cause. And I don't know his backstory, by the way. So he's also involved in the UFO community, apparently. Does the tech in the MH370 videos require remote command centers? That's unknown, but I think we might learn a little bit more about that in this interview and when we research the science. I think you could argue that the orbs could be autonomous, like drones, or they could be getting controlled from either a satellite or even a ground-based station, or probably even a boat. Lots of different options. It's hard to say.
I ended my career with the Office of Director of National Intelligence in the counterproliferation field. Now at CIA, I was what is known as a technical electronic intelligence, or as anyone in the military or the IC with that type of background would know, is called tech-elint. Now, what is tech-elint, and how does that relate to
ELINT is, I think, ELINT for people that want to look it up.
UFOs or UAPs? Well, let me describe tech-elint first. Tech-elint is this discipline under SIGINT.
Okay, I just had a thought. Sorry for pausing all the time. I want to know if Edward C. Lin was tech-elint. I'm starting to think that like Edward C. Lin was basically exactly the same job as John Ramirez is describing right now. Because if Edward C. Lin would have had access to the tech-elint system, which would have been a remote control terminal session that he's logged into, then boom, I mean, proof. That links him directly to the satellite feed. And I think the fact that Edward C. Lin, he's been connected to SIGINT, makes me question if we can find a document that links Edward C. Lin to tech-elint or even just to ELINT, that's pretty big if you ask me. I mean, we already know Edward C. Lin's the guy, but having like a straight up smoking gun that like he would have 100% had access to the satellite video, that's huge.
That is related to emanations of electromagnetic energy radiated by weapon systems, such as surface-to-air missiles, such as cruise missiles, ballistic missile defense systems, air-to-air missiles. You get the idea. Weapon systems. And we don't just collect and analyze the parameters of these weapon systems signals. We also dive into what made this emanation work. How does it work? And try to reverse engineer in software using modeling and simulation the actual transmitter and receiver chain of that particular emitter.
Well, that's weird because he's talking about using software to recreate it. And that makes me wonder if they can use, if the SIBRS system that we're reading there isn't simply an active monitoring system. We know it's connected to some type of software that's rendering that. What if they can like model stuff on there where it actually really does blur the lines between full motion video capture and like an actual editing software? What if it actually is some kind of combination like that?
We're literally reconstructing that radar or that seeker on paper within the computer and try to...
That's really interesting. We're literally recreating that in the computer from the signals intelligence that they've captured of it. I mean, this is very similar to what we're talking about with the satellite capabilities with SIBRS. Maybe that's how SIBRS really actually works.
Exploited in that manner. So it's a little bit more complicated than what most military people call ELINT, which is operational ELINT. That's just basically like collecting or detecting signals and looking it up in a database and associating that signal with a known emitter. So how does that relate to UFOs and UAPs? I am intrigued that the USS Princeton, CG-59.
That's pretty exciting, guys. What he just said there is really interesting. It sort of corroborates the satellite video. He just said they have this stuff in a database somewhere. Well, when we're looking at the satellite video, we're looking at a remote terminal Citrix session. That's what that means, is you're logged into a remote database. So, like, this is part of the reason why some of these guys can't say much about how this stuff works, because we can already glean information just off what John Ramirez is saying here that's publicly available that he can say. If they say even more about it, like, we're going to be able to confirm the videos are real just from the public. Like, if those match the military's capabilities, because everybody's trying to say that's not what it looks like, clouds aren't moving, somebody used some stock assets. Well, if you're like, no, this is real military, who the fuck would have faked that? How could you know? Nobody in the world knows right now. Nobody in the world knows what our satellite capabilities really look like unless you're involved on the inside. So now the hoaxer would have to be somebody who knows about the military. This is why it's so important to even just learn about the capabilities. There's several ways where we can prove anytime in the future that the videos are real. One of them is the science gets publicly accepted, proves the videos are real. One of the other ways is we can see or learn about military surveillance capabilities that they let get out to the public. And if it matches those videos, they're real, because unless you think the government made them, nobody could hoax them who doesn't know about how those systems operate. So this is the reason why I get excited when people talk about the United States' surveillance capabilities. Like, these videos are going to be proven to be real. It's just a matter of time. And we've got multiple ways, including Edward C. Lin just coming forward and being like, yeah, I leaked those videos. If Edward C. Lin just comes out and says, I leaked those videos, like, first of all, the world is going to attack him. Debunkers are going to say he's lying for the clout, that he followed my investigation and is just doing it for attention. And it's going to be a shit show.
Might have collected emanations of an electromagnetic nature from the Tic Tac. I know that the USS Princeton has a piece of equipment that I'm very familiar with called the AN/SLQ, or SLIC 32. It is a countermeasures piece of equipment designed to collect signals of a threat nature and then generate counter signals to deceive or to deflect that particular weapon systems. And I'm being very, very careful in my description of the SLIC 32. I myself was an electronic.
So just right there, you can read between the lines. So this is part of the reason why you can tell he's telling the truth, because he's going, this is how much I can say, and I can't say anything else about his capabilities because I'm being very careful. He's got NDA, right? He can't say stuff like that. So he's got to be careful. So I definitely nothing about what he's saying so far seems, and also if you're trying to push disinformation, you wouldn't be saying exactly how our systems work. Yeah, you wouldn't be saying like how our, collection apparatus works. Hey, Ocean, I saw your pictures by the beach. Hey, Ocean, I just thought it would be creepy if I commented. People would be like, hey, but I liked them.
Warfare technician prior to joining CIA. And as an electronic warfare technician, I'm very familiar with how signals intelligence is conducted on board a Navy ship. I believe that if these signals exist, and I have a suspicion where they might be, it opens up an avenue of other research, and it opens up an avenue for a Freedom of Information Act request on at least the fact of that such signals were collected. Now, who would characterize these signals in the intelligence community and in the military, in the defense?
This is huge. I missed this the first time around. He just said you could FOIA signal collections. Boy, the Navy's sweating real hard right now watching this live stream. The intel agencies watching this live stream are sweating up buckets right now. Wait, I can FOIA in signals that were received? Can we FOIA information about the orbs? They had to have boats in the area. They had the Andaman Sea right there. What do I have to search for? What do I have to FOIA request to get the signals? I want all the signals. Oh my God, I want all the signals from March 7th, 2014. Oh, I can FOIA the Navy. I need to know what kind of signals, guys. We got new FOIA requests. Ooh, I didn't know we could FOIA signals. Oh boy. So when I was FOIAing the Mayday call, that was smart. That was very smart. If they reject my FOIA request for the Mayday call, I FOIA'd the Navy on the Chinese Mayday call. And maybe I was too specific. If they reject it, I'm going to be less specific, but interesting.
Community. Well, obviously, the National Security Agency is the SIGINT agency for the U.S. government. Having said,
this is also important. So NSA is the one for the signals intelligence. So when you want to FOIA them, this is where I learned. I FOIA'd the Navy and I also FOIA'd the NSA. I technically also FOIA'd the CIA too, because I wasn't sure where the line is drawn. But those are the three agencies when it comes to signals intelligence.
That the CIA also does signals intelligence, but in a different way and for a different purpose. And it's beyond the scope of my explanation now. But CIA also does SIGINT, and that's why I was an ELINT analyst in the CIA and not at NSA. So NSA probably might have these signals. Now, who else might have these signals? I believe the Office of Naval Research might have collected this data from the Princeton.
That's good to know.
And my suspicion is it is a group known as within ONR Code 31, Division 312. And Division 312 is Electronics, Sensors, and Network Research. And part of that is electronic.
Well, okay, this is really good. Can I FOIA this division directly? Oh, we're FOIA. What does this division do? Electronics, Sensors, and Network Research.
Warfare. So the Slick 32 being an electronic warfare piece of equipment on a naval vessel, I do believe that Division 312 might have analyzed these emanations from Tic Tac and other similar craft where a signals intelligence collection system was able to collect these signals. And again,
oh wow, we're gonna be able to FOIA these orbs, chat. So if somehow those are not United States orbs, then we definitely have signals that are FOIA-able for them. And even if they are ours, I still think they probably, because the fact that we're looking at 2 videos, they probably have public signals. Oh, they're gonna have to reject that too. They'll have to reject that FOIA request in the interest of national defense. Yeah, if we can get a FOIA request on the signals intelligence from that night, and it turns out they have to reject it, ooh, that's really big. I'm checking right now if we can FOIA them, by the way. Let me just see. Or was it DNR? Naval Reactors Laboratory Field Office, Department of Energy. No, it's just the Navy. So maybe I can specify my FOIA request.
It's a whole very, very right field for
FOIA reports,
a FOIA request to find out for sure. From the Scale Workers of the Pentagon book, we learned that DIA was on the ground collecting optical, electro-optical, radiological, visual, electromagnetic emanations of the phenomenon. This is a field known as Measurement and Signature Intelligence, or MASINT. And DIA is the intelligence agency responsible for MASINT.
MASINT? What was that? That was all the other ones. So we might actually have to FOIA the DIA. That was like magnetic, whatever. So maybe even have to FOIA the DIA.
On the ground, on Earth. But what about in space? What intelligence agency is responsible for collecting similar types of intelligence from space? Let me introduce you to another 3-letter agency, NGA, or the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency.
The NGA still hasn't responded to my request for information about NROLA 22 that I sent like a year ago. Yeah, for the record, when you FOIA the National Geospatial Agency or the NRO, you get like nothing back from those guys.
The NGA is responsible for collecting imagery of the Earth from space and also the space above the Earth. There's a distinction. One is looking down at the Earth, one is looking at the space right above the Earth. Therefore, NGA is likely to be the intelligence agency that might have collected UAPs in flight. And this intelligence agency is not well known amongst those who follow the UAP issue.
Okay, so I'm actually just going to literally FOIA the satellite and signals from the NGA for the exact location where those coordinates are. Yeah, I'm gonna specify it that I want all the satellite data within, like, I might even do it within like a 1-hour time period. I'll probably open it up to 12 hours around March 7th before and after the event. And have them give me everything they have, or everything they have on that one day. Because we know the exact location. We know exactly where. We actually know within like 5 minutes when it happened. Like we have it like narrowed down. Like, so our FOIA request can be like pinpoint accuracy. It's like the hardest part is knowing what to FOIA. This has actually already been super useful.
But let me take you on a little scenario. Let's say NGA analysts, their imagery analysts, detected unusual orbs of energy, light orbs, in their imagery.
You just say, what if the NGA saw light orbs? Do you guys just hear what he just said? 5 seconds ago. So right away now, I'm already starting to read between the lines. Like Ramirez has seen some shit and he's trying to get it out there in the way that he can. Notice how much he focuses on light orbs here. He even will say halfway through this interview, he's never seen any flying saucers, but he's had a personal experience with light orbs. Sorry, what? You mean like balls of plasma? Like floating balls of plasma? So let's listen to that again.
Let's say NGA analysts, their imagery analysts, detected unusual orbs of energy, light orbs, in their imagery.
So yeah, so light orbs at 7 minutes, like so is that what I FOIA? Like how do they classify this? Do I literally FOIA light orbs? Hey, you got any light orb videos for me on March 7, 2014 around the Nicobar Islands, guys? NGA. FYI, that FOIA request is in the mail chat. Right after I get back from Las Vegas, that FOIA request is going into the NGA. Now the NGA is sweating.
And let's say that these energy orbs were flying in formation.
Like that. This is getting weird. Let's just say, guys, hypothetical, there's some energy orbs. The NGA sees them. And let's just say they're flying in formation. What? Like this kind of formation? Like a triangle formation? Let's just say
with an intent to a destination. Now, the first thing that the NGA analysts would do was to eliminate plausible explanations. It seems reasonable. Let's look at Occam's razor. Let's see what it could be. So that's where the weapons intelligence analysts will come into play, looking at the inventory of China and Russia. What do they have that could do similar things? Now, let's say that one of the craft in the Russian inventory, the MiG-31, carries on board a plasma stealth generator. And the plasma stealth generator can produce a similar type of electro-optical signal.
Let's say they have a plasma generator. What? How can this be random? He's like, okay, guys, let's just say there's a light orb in the sky, hypothetically. And let's say, hypothetically, we catch it on our video. And let's just say, hypothetically, it's a plasma weapon from the Russians. Like, I'm sorry, what plasma weapon? You mean like the thing we're staring at in these videos? Like out of all the things that he could use for examples, he used the exact thing that we're staring at in the MH370 videos. Plasma stealth generator? Sorry, what? I just like, what, dude? That's not, he's not just randomly naming stuff. He's like, he's clearly has seen some shit. Like, I gotta replay that because it's just too funny. Let's just say maybe it came from a Russian jet and maybe they could just make a ball of plasma with this plasma weapon. What? Is this real? Are you being serious right now, John Ramirez?
MiG-31 carries on board a plasma stealth generator. And the plasma stealth generator can produce.
He's not like missile or like, you know, Sidewinder missile. He's like, no, let's just say they have a plasma stealth generator on board. Like as if we're supposed to like just be familiar with that. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, Russians are flying around plasma stealth generators. I gotcha. Okay. Like what a weird thing to drop in there, right? It does honestly feel like in a way he's like talking to me directly, where he's like, there's this guy out there talking about some videos of some orbs disappear in a plane. Hey, random people out there, how about a plasma stealth generator? Wink, wink. What the hell? Is this the second letter? Did John Ramirez send the letter to Ashton Forbes chat? Maybe. Jesus, this is weird. So somebody sent me this. I was like on, I don't know, a couple days ago on Project Unity's channel. Go to Project Unity's channel. Check it out. Project Unity never speaks during this. It's just a video of John Ramirez. Like, did John Ramirez like email this video to Project Unity and be like, hey, play this on your channel? I'm kind of confused. Like, if so, hey, John Ramirez, you want my email address, bro? Send me some shit like this.
Similar type of electro-optical signature to These
For the record, electro-optical is the abbreviated by EO. EO. The drone video is using an electro-optical EO/EI sensor camera to film. That's what the Westcam MX whatever is. Like, do I have it? Yeah, I do. Here you go. Look at this. MX2525. Look at what kind of sensor. High definition EO and IR. Electro-optical and infrared. That's what we're looking at in the MH370 video. Dual channel color and low light electro-optical wide angle zoom. This is literally what we're staring at. I mean, just read the letters here. We're also looking at it at nighttime. This camera right here, this is the camera we're staring at in the MH370 videos. If it's not this exact one, it's like a variant of this one. And he's explaining right now, even look at how that's a real plane. That's not AI. That's a real plane using the real camera. Doesn't that look just like the MH370 videos look? Look at that. Doesn't that look, if you just added color to this, it's exactly what the MH370 videos look like. You just add color to that. Look at that camera. You can even see this like sheen on the plane itself. Yeah, like that's the camera, chat. So look at this. I'm just going to play the MH370 video. And the reason why I bring this up is, guys, like, the more they say, the more we can connect to all the evidence we already have out there. We've had so much. Look at this. That's the camera. How's that not the camera? Looks just like it. This is nighttime. So that camera has low light vision capabilities, EO, color electro-optical sensor capabilities. Doesn't that movement of that camera look just like what we just witnessed? That's not like a random, someone adds some random camera shake to the camera. No, that's like literally specific intent. Yeah, the camera's just moving like this, and they're zooming in and out, moving the camera. It's probably got like a joystick basically somewhere in like Texas or something like that. So there you go. Okay. Let's go back to this, my man.
the satellites collecting imagery. But the weapons intelligence analysts eliminated the MiG-31.
Oh, somebody asked him. Okay, so then he's talking about the MiG-31. He basically says they end up saying, okay, it can't be the MiG-31, doesn't have the right payload, blah, blah, blah. What are the other options? And then eventually he's going to get to aliens here. A couple of people asked some questions, and they're repeating them, so I'll go ahead and address them. Did they ever have his script acted out? I don't know what that means. Travis, can they use this to stop the pole shift? Guys, the pole shift isn't really proven in any way, shape, or form. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not. I will say, to answer your question, if we have gravity manipulation, gravity wave technology, which we'll look at here in a minute, or actually in a few minutes, then yes, we can probably figure out if there's going to be a pole shift. We probably have sensor data to determine that. Are they going to tell the world that? Probably not. Probably not. There you go. Yeah, these drone cameras are wild. That's why, like, you can tell what we're looking at that video is, that's not CGI. That is not CGI, man. There's no CGI that makes that. That's a real camera. And those are the most expensive, probably best cameras in the world for 2014 when that plane disappeared. That camera we were looking at there. That's part two. We're like, how do people really think that drone video is fake? Okay, maybe I could see people understand the satellite video since there's these random pictures that, like, the CIA probably just planted on somebody's set of photos to be found later on. But so I can see that. People have to believe. I mean, for people that believe you can teleport a plane, believing you can put some pictures on somebody on the cloud somewhere on somebody's on a website, it's not really that hard to believe. But the drone video, like, there's no way to debunk the drone video. It's a real drone video. We see the drone. We have the camera. Like, they're like, oh, if we figure out what assets were used, then that makes it fake. But it's like, no, the assets, the models are just based off real assets. So of course they look similar. The bigger thing is, like, we know the exact camera that was used to film that video, and we know basically the exact drone. Like, that's evidence is actually just real.
Because, first of all, the MiG-31 cannot fly above 123,000 feet. It still holds that record above 123,000 feet for an air-breathing craft.
Sorry to keep pausing, but 123,000 feet? They have jets that are flying at 123,000 feet? Do you know how high up that is, guys? That's more than twice as high as commercial aircrafts can even possibly fly. In some cases, like 3 times as high as commercial airliners. That is really, really far up.
It usually flies between 85 to 100,000 feet in a combat mode, designed to look down and shoot down a fast-moving aircraft. And what would that be? The SR-71. And that is why the SR-71 doesn't fly anymore. It's very vulnerable to the MiG-31.
That's why the SR-71 doesn't fly anymore? Because it's vulnerable to the Russians who have a plane that flies at like 100,000 feet? That's really interesting to know.
And its capabilities.
Yeah, so we just have some orbs, though, so fuck you, Russia. It's like, oh, okay, you got a plane that flies at 100,000 feet. Well, that's sweet. Well, we got orbs that have no inertia and ignore gravity, and we can just teleport anything we want to anywhere else we want, or just probably annihilate you any moment we want. Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with your MiG-31.
Let's eliminate the Russian MiG-31. What next? Well, then the imagery analysts will go and look at the software, the processing software on the ground. And it checks out. The software is fine. It did not create these aberrations in the data. Next is the spacecraft itself. NRO is responsible for the care and feeding of these spacecraft. And they designed these spacecraft where they would know more about these spacecraft than anyone else. So they will look at these spacecraft collecting imagery, and they say, oh, they're fine, nothing wrong. So now we have an interesting issue. So the NGA and NRO together decide that they need to deep dive into what is going on. And they create a working group. And they invite.
So they can't figure out what's going on with something. They decide it can't be Russia or whatever. They make a working group. Now, this is where the bureaucracy comes into play, right? You wonder why we can't get disclosure done? It's because they find some fucking orbs floating around. They're like, maybe it's Russia. Nope, can't be Russia. Let's do a working group, guys. How is 9 o'clock on Wednesday for everybody? Oh, nope. Catherine, oh, you can't make it 9 o'clock on Wednesday? Okay, well, let's move that to Friday. Meanwhile, public will be like, we're looking at some fucking plasma orbs floating around in the sky, going from 100,000 feet to 20,000 feet in 5 seconds. Like, what's going on here, man? Like, maybe we should expedite the meeting up until like right now and get this shit figured out. What are we looking at? This is how it's being kind of covered up in general. I saw a comment, something on blah, blah, Ryan. How much consideration is given to the fact the USA has past published fake info on tech advancement? This is one of those like rumors that gets spread that's not really based in reality. We don't go and go, hey guys, here's fake technology for you to look into. The reason why you don't do that is because if it's fake, you know right away it's not going to work. But if it's scientifically plausible, then you're just giving away your information. It doesn't take like, that's like saying like, hey, Ashton, we're going to give you some secret flat earth science to throw you off on your thing. Ashton, here you go. Here's some secret flat earth science to confuse you. I just laugh at you, go, well, the earth's not flat. There's no actual evidence to support it. I'm not going to waste my time. There's no reason to waste my time because I know it's not real. So when you start pushing stuff like, yes, here's free energy, here's how it works, the reason why you don't do that is because, well, first of all, if you want to say it's not real, then it's on you. All that you're going to take all the risks to say, oh, well, this isn't possible. But if somebody's right and it is possible, now they have every advantage over you. So the other thing is you look at the science, you go, well, it's not really arguable. Like it theoretically can work if there is a Dirac of energy. So this is the reason why the whole like it's misinformation argument that's being pushed out there doesn't work. That's just for people who don't understand the science. But once you understand the science, then you know right away if something's real or not. So it doesn't make any sense to do that anyway.
Subject matter experts from all the major intelligence agencies.
And I get to follow up. I'm not trying to call you out, Brian B., because people say, well, something doesn't feel right that they're disclosing it. Yeah, what doesn't feel right is that you've been lied to your whole life. And people actually just are open and honest and tell you that we've been hiding it. Here's how it works, blah, blah, blah. Here's the inner workings and machinations of the intelligence agency. There's some people out there just saying it. They're just saying it. And you can tell right away he's being careful. He's not giving away anything that would be considered classified. And this is where it's just like all red tape. So you say, well, what is classified? Well, he's allowed to speak generally about the operations as long as he's not specific about it. As long as you then say, here's our capabilities. We can see a quarter on the ground from, 40,000 feet away or 40,000 miles or kilometers, whatever the hell, kilometers I think it is. So that's the reason why you have to understand like the overall operations. And this is what's great about listening to people like him, because then we learn about how the operations actually work.
And they're contractors. And they create a compartment for this effort. And they meet at an NGA facility. And let's say that they studied this in depth and they looked at every plausible, unusual explanation going back to the UFO files and its disposal for this working group, because they have the staff compartment to look at them. And they decide that, okay, there is something up there, like orbs, that we cannot explain. And they brief the Director of National Intelligence at that point. And they write a report for the Director of National Intelligence. And the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, then will queue up something called decision levers.
So this is interesting. Like, I had no idea how this stuff works. So basically, the NGA, the NRO, whoever else has to review the tech. They make a meeting. Hey, Catherine, time to go meet on Friday, like we said. And then they write up a report. That goes up to the Director of National Intelligence. Our DNI right now, who's the DNI? I think it's Catherine Hicks. Or wait, what is it? What's her name? No, Avril Haines. So I actually was looking her up earlier. Avril Haines is the current Director of National Intelligence right now. So now do you guys understand how our research works? We listen to stuff like this. We hear, he just told us the answer. Like, who would be the person that would know? The Director of National Intelligence. He just explained the orb situation to us. So Avril Haines knows. She knows. 100% she knows. And you want to know something fun out? Something else that's fun about Avril Haines right now? Avril Haines actually worked with Obama back when Obama was president. And she would give the recommendations for which civilians we can just execute with drone strikes. I mean, I'm giving you the color commentary, but that was basically her job, was be like, yeah, we're legally allowed to blow up this wedding because there's a terrorist in it. So yes, we might kill 20 innocent civilians, but we're going to get the guy that we wanted. So I think we're legally covered. I'm not even joking. This is what her job was. So, you know, I don't have anything against you, Avril Haines, but if I were to go missing, I think people should go start talking to people like Avril Haines about what they know about Ashton Forbes. That's all I'm saying.
Because they need to brief the highest level of government, the President of the United States. And you never take a problem to the President. You take solutions. And that's what the decision levers are. They're options that the President can execute. And attached to every decision.
Problem number one, what to do about Ashton Forbes on social media. Problem number two, just joking.
Lever are possible outcomes and an assessment of unintended consequences. And it's up to the President to decide what he or she might want to do. The intelligence community never, ever makes policy. That is up to the President to make.
Very interesting. So now we know if the United States government did this, President Barack Obama is implicated in the disappearance of MH370 directly. It sounds kind of funny to say that, to accuse a president, but now we know how it literally works. So Avril Haines was going to President Obama. In fact, we should find out, I think it was John Brennan, who was the actual DNI when Obama was president. Heck, we can figure out who's in the know about this operation. Because even if it wasn't the United States, then he just explained how it worked. Like, it honestly feels like John Ramirez is talking to us right now, because he's talking about light orbs, plasma weapons. We find out it's not Russia. So who is it? It's Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin in the Nicobar Islands with the plasma stealth generator, guys, on March 7th, 2014. Right? And then, was it Brennan? I think it was, right? So John Brennan knows what happened to MH370. We know for sure. If it was aliens that zapped the plane, John Brennan knows. If it was us that did it, John Brennan knows. He's the one who had to tell Obama. Obama then would have been the one to do the policy. What are we going to do? What's our policy on MH370, sir? The policy is we're going to cover that shit up. We're going to say that it went into the South Indian. And one of the decision levers is make up a lie about the South Indian Ocean, spread it on CNN and MSNBC, and go to Inmarsat and tell Inmarsat that they got to fabricate some satellite pings for us to make it look like, if some idiot bloggers review the pings, that the plane went into the South Indian Ocean. That was basically it. So that was the decision plan.
Make policy. And the policy was, we need to study this phenomenon more, but not provoke it. And so that's queued up. And then we have ALSAT coming in through the wings. The previous working group was in Title 50. That is the civilian side of these intelligence agencies. CIA is totally Title 50. That is.
Oh, it was Clapper? Okay, so it was James Clapper. Maybe even worse. But this is important. If you guys want to know who the people who know like about the MH370 videos, like this is as high, we have to go this high. That's how high up we have to go. And then there's probably some people who are sworn into secrecy, or if they're ever to say anything, they're going to prison like Edward Seelin. So there you go.
Civilian, not military. The NRO, the NSA, DIA, the NGA are also known as combat support agencies under Title 10. They have a defense role. And as a defense intelligence agency, not DIA, but a military intelligence agency, they're responsible for examining threats. And that's where ALSAT came in. Now, when you tell the Pentagon that Congress wants it to capture something, it implies some kind of kinetic force. That is, shoot it down. And I'm not sure that's the way to go. I don't hold my breath.
Yeah, anyone who has this kind of power too, like you're just above the law. You're just completely above the law. What can they do? Like anybody messes with you, you're like the next plane you get on is going to crash mysteriously, and you're like, okay, I'm on board. We hear your message loud and clear.
For any kind of disclosure from the government. Disclosure implies a top-down approach from the government to we the people. In turn, I favor more of a upward approach from the people to the government, an approach I call discovery versus disclosure.
So here you go. Holy crap. If he's not talking to us right here, well, he just gave us the roadmap. How much have I told you guys the government is never going to give us disclosure? Part of the problem with like at least half of UFO Twitter and the Twitter UFO community in general is they all think you're going to have a top-down approach where the government will come out and admit the truth about how we've been hiding aliens from the world, and then they'll come and we'll be able to have sex with them. Like that's literally what like half of UFO Twitter like gets hard about, which no offense if that's one of you guys that's out there, but the reality is it's never going to happen that way. When the government's going to be covering up something this huge, it's potentially, many people will consider this like a crime against humanity itself. This is a situation where it's got to come from the bottom up. It's got to come from the people that figure it out and discover it. And this is why I say it's not a situation of a top down where like, we need to have some grand proclamation on CNN and you need to put a device out there and let MSNBC's Joy Reid interview you and show it on national television. That shit's never going to happen. That's not what we need. We just need people to wake up. We need people to discover that it's there. The most that I can do, and this is going to be in my proclamation to Aaron Rodgers, is just show people the door. Like, so why do I want to talk to somebody like Aaron Rodgers? Why do I want to talk to somebody like Aaron Rodgers? The reason why I want to talk to somebody like Aaron Rodgers is because he's fucking smart. I like Aaron Rodgers. And I think that Aaron Rodgers is the kind of guy that if you explain the science and the technology to him in a logical and rational way, if you explain the evidence about the missing plane to him, then I think he'll understand it. I respect Aaron Rodgers, and I think that he has a huge platform where he talks to a lot of very other interesting people and podcasters, where if you open up that guy's mind, if you say, here's the door, all you have to do is walk through it. This is how we take our bottom-up approach. And we get disclosure. It's never going to happen from the top down from the government. Okay, sweet. I might actually edit that into my thing. Might have just done it right there, chat. Oops. How do I switch this?
And in discovery, citizen science plays an important role, as well as now we can actually ask our candidates for office, what do they feel about UAPs? What is their policy? What is their intent on investigating UAPs? It's no longer some weird crackpot question. So what about all these craft that people are seeing? Whether they be saucer-shaped, cigar-shaped, triangles, or orbs of energy. I myself have not experienced a metallic craft that is a saucer-shaped, cigar-shaped, or triangular-shaped craft, or an acorn shape, or whatever many, many different shapes these craft appear.
You guys ready for this? So he's going, I haven't seen any flying saucers. What do you think he's going to say next? And oh, by the way, I found the thing we were going to talk about after this. We're going to look into the history of anti-gravity from Amy Eskridge.
To people. I have experienced light energy orbs in my life. I'd like to relate to you an interesting story because the synchronicities are amazing.
Okay, now it feels like it's the Assassin's Creed game, and he's definitely talking to us. Like, who's he talking to? It feels like a synchronicity. I want to talk to you. Like, is there some reason why Project Unity has got some synchronicity with orbs? I'm very confused. Because he's not talking to anybody during this interview. And he's seen light orbs, but he's never seen any of the other stuff. He just said that.
I was on a flight from BWI, that is Baltimore, Washington International Airport, to LAX, Los Angeles International Airport. I happened to be on that flight to attend a UFO conference with a CIA colleague. Let me say this. Both of us are traveled on our own dime. This was not an official CIA trip in any way. We were both interested in UFOs because of experiences we had personally in our personal lives. Now, having said that, it is a requirement for CIA officers when they travel, even on a personal trip, to report that travel to the Office of Security External Activities Branch. So I did so, letting them know that I was going to a UFO conference. I gave them my flights and the hotel I was staying at. And so on the way there, on the plane, we were flying over I would say the southwest part of the United States, getting close to California, and the pilot reported a UFO. Now let me explain that. It didn't occur over the intercom. Back then, United Airlines used to broadcast the air traffic control and cockpit voice communications over Channel 1.
This is awesome. I remember this. Did they stop doing this? So if you guys don't know what he's saying here, he was on a commercial airliner and there was a UFO sighting. How did he know? He was listening to the air traffic control voice comms on the first channel. So the way it used to work was you plugged your headphones in and it was like you could put the video on anything you want. And then the headphones had their separate audio channel. And it was like if you're watching this movie, go to audio channel 11 and you could flip through them. Well, audio channel 1 had the pilot's communications with air traffic control and he was listening in. How cool is that? They stopped after 9/11. Oh, wow. That's when they stopped. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, wow. It does seem like a security risk. I did not know that. They stopped after 9/11.
And they did that through these old-fashioned pneumatic headphones that you plug in. It was purely a tube plugged into air, if you remember those days. And I was tuned to Channel 1. And there was not much going on, just the usual air traffic control talk. And to understand why I was on Channel 1, I am an aviation nerd.
I knew he was going to be, like, the question is like, why are you listening to that? You know, like nobody listens to that shit. And he's like, oh, dude, I'm tech elent, bro. He's like, I'm tech elent. You think I'm not going to listen to the communications from the pilots? Because he can understand what they're saying. Of course you can listen to it if you can understand what you're saying. I would.
Whatever you want to call it. I love listening to that. And so over the Southwest, I heard the pilot or someone, the co-pilot maybe, report to air traffic control that they spotted a fast-moving orange orb on their port or left side of the craft at a distance, and then was coming across into their flight path at a very rapid speed. And the ATC reported that they held no contacts. There was nothing in the sky correlating to the visual report of the cockpit. I immediately looked out the right side where I was seated, the starboard side window, and there it was, an orange orb flying from the south to the north. Interesting, though, that in the southwest, north of our position, there is Nevada. So I keep that in mind. But there was an orange orb. It had absolutely no physical shape other than it was spherical and it was orange. And it receded and gave off this orange light, but it wasn't a shiny light at all. It wasn't as if the light shined from within to without. It just was this orange orb, as if you would cut out a large orange disc out of some orange construction paper, brightly lit, kind of like fluorescent, and there it was. I couldn't see any kind of like spectral energy coming off of it. It was just orange. And so happens that, that it was with this experience going to a UFO conference. And I've always thought about that.
Yeah, I'm curious of what element gives off orange as well, especially when you start to think of like a plasma ball. It's like, okay, so it's self-contained. So maybe they're using a magnetic monopole. Maybe that's why it doesn't look like it's emanating brightly. While it still is a bright object, it's just not like, it's not blinding. Like you can actually see the object. That's actually how I imagine when you see the heat signature that makes 370 videos. It could be bright, but I could see a scenario where it looks something like that because of the non-radiating barrier around it, the field, where the field stops.
Now, do I discount the other sightings of triangles or soft?
If you're just jumping in here, we're about 5 minutes from the end of this, I think. This is John Ramirez. This interview was on Project Unity's YouTube channel a couple days ago. Somebody recommended it to me. I get about 1 million things to review. I do review quite a bit of the stuff that I get sent. If I don't respond, it's not personal. It doesn't necessarily mean I don't think it was good content, but if you want to send me stuff, it helps to give me a timestamp of what to listen to, or just what the content is in general, who it is.
Or cigar shapes or any of the shapes. No, I don't. Even though I personally have no knowledge of those kinds of craft, I believe that we should embrace everything widely, but hold things lightly. Hold things lightly so that they're applicable to you. They may not be applicable to someone else.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here.
Knowledge of a craft, but I don't discount anything.
So this is one thing real quick as well. I'm glad I skipped that part, but a lot of the people that are in the know, what you're going to find is from their mindset, they don't discount anything. They don't rule anything out, because once you've seen some crazy shit that seems impossible, then you're like, okay, I can't really rule out cloaking capabilities. If I'm talking about wormholes being possible, can't really rule that out. Heck, you can't even really rule out like, medical healing aspects, but I just don't talk about them because I don't want to get myself in trouble. You can rule out flat earth though. No offense to my flat earthers. I don't care if people want to believe the earth is flat. Just believe whatever you want.
I'd like to address the recent release of notes purportedly taken by Dr. Eric W. Davis on a conversation with Admiral Thomas, who was director of the DIA. Do I believe?
I'm sorry, you just say Eric Davis, good sir? Eric Davis is in teleportation physics study, Eric Davis. So now he's just randomly name dropping the physician or the physicians, the physicists and the engineers that like I'd bet basically the house that these guys have seen some UFOs. They've seen some floaty orbs, let's just say, right? You don't write a physics study that's like 50 pages, 60 pages long called teleportation physics study unless you're pretty damn sure that the content is real, you know? It's not exactly a sci-fi novel.
These notes are authentic, genuine. Yes, I do. And here's why. And there's two reasons why. First of all,
guys, what are these notes? Can somebody in the Discord tell? I don't know the lore about any UFO community shit. So wait, John Ramirez said there was some communication between Eric Davis and some director of national intelligence. Like when was this? What is this? What did they talk about? We have to look this up. If you guys are in my Discord, I need you to figure out what the hell he's talking about here, what those notes are, and I want to take a look at them because he just said, I think these are legit. And why would Eric Davis be talking to anybody's people about this stuff? It's going to be about the technology and the science every time, right?
I am very familiar with the Special Access Program process. And at CIA, we have the Controlled Access Program process, SAPs and CAPs. I was a CAP officer in charge of a very sensitive program dealing with a relationship we had of a very covert nature with ostensibly an adversarial country. And because CIA cleared my presentation for public release and said nothing in that presentation was classified, I can reveal this, that the
All right, then, keep your secret.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Central Intelligence Agency and the People's Liberation Army of China had a technical partnership to build collection facilities in China. CIA officers built what ostensibly would be mini pine gaps, miniature pine gaps in China.
Is he talking about the military base Pine Gap? Yep, he's talking about the military base Pine Gap in Australia. I was like, is this letter to me? Like, what is this? He's talking about all the bases that I talk about, all the science I talk about, all the orbs I'm talking about. Why is he talking about everything that I talk about? It's actually to the point now where he's been speaking for 75% of this. We're 22 minutes in. And like every single thing he said is relevant to the investigation for MH370. From the surveillance capabilities to the literal, plasma stealth cannon? What? To the way that the intelligence rolls up to the DNI and then up to the president. Like, that's super useful. I didn't know that. And now he's saying that we've got mini pine gaps built in China that are like, we're working with China? What?
China to collect technical intelligence against the Soviet Union. CIA officers worked side by side with officers of the People's Liberation.
Yeah, this is what does this not seem crazy? Am I taking crazy pills? China let us build signals intelligence collection facilities in mainland China to spy on the Soviets, to spy on the Russians. Does the world know about this? Is this the first time anybody's ever mentioned this? This is fucking crazy.
Army. CIA officers trained officers of the People's Liberation Army to use sophisticated electronic equipment similar to what we have at Pine Gap and probably closer to what we had in Iran at these sites called Hexman that the Shah allowed us to have to do the same, monitor the Soviet Union. And we will monitor.
So now we know what Pine Gap was used for as well. Like, why do we have a base in Pine Gap? Well, because we have nothing else in that area of the world. And why do we have one in Diego Garcia? Because the location is strategically extremely important. Like, now we can see exactly why we have these bases. Like, why have one in Pine Gap in Australia? Because we don't have any coverage of that zone without Pine Gap. And then we've got Diego Garcia. So you can imagine, what do you think their range is? Most likely their ranges are overlapping. If you were to think about like their radar ranges around these bases. So if you do the overlapping circles on them, you're going to see both of these bases would be seeing MH370 start to finish. Whatever happened to MH370, even if it's not the videos, like they are in range to see that for sure. And then why are they building ones with China? Because they can't quite see into China. They need them. China's huge. So they need signals intelligence bases in China to be able to see Russia. It's too far.
Ballistic missile tests and other tests at Saryshgan, which is the Russian equivalent of Area 51 and White Sands Missile Range, all rolled up into one. And that was a controlled access program
one more time.
to have to do the same, monitor the Soviet Union. We will monitor ballistic missile tests and other tests at Saryshgan.
Saryshgan, is that the Urals Mountains range one? Do you guys, anyone spell that?
Which is the...
Basically, just said this is Russia Area 51. Is that the one that we know from the Urals Mountain, Urals Mountain, the Saryshgan, whatever the heck he just said?
Russian equivalent of Area 51 and White Sands Missile Range, all rolled up into one. And that was a controlled access program, extremely sensitive. On this controlled access program, there was a Bigot list. And you've heard of Bigot lists already. It is extremely, extremely narrow.
I've not heard of the Bigot list unless you're talking about the what they say about what political nonsense being bigots. A list of personnel possessing the appropriate security clearance and who are cleared to know the details of a particular operation or other sensitive information. Should I be FOIA in a Bigot list? Oh, is he just telling us more stuff to FOIA here? So if I FOIA request a Bigot list, am I going to be able to figure out who knows about MH370?
And that there are very, very few people on that Bigot list. So even though that you might have a top secret SCI clearance, you may not be on the Bigot list. Even though you might have a titled position in the intelligence community, you may not be on that Bigot list.
So this is how they compartmentalize the information. You guys listening right now? You want to know, how do they hide the technology? Because they've got all these layers of bureaucracy. It doesn't even matter what your position is in an agency. If you're not on the Bigot list, you don't get to know anything about the operation. So you could actually be in a position where you should possibly know, but it's just classified even above you. And then like other people that aren't even as high ranked as you could possibly know about some secret operation, but you as the leader of the DNI or whatever just have no clue. So like now you see how extremely compartmentalized it is and why it's easy for something to look like it's aliens or Russia or China, but it turns out it's just us. Because only a small number of people are even clear to know about what's going on.
So on that Bigot list, I can reveal that there were presidents of the United States, secretaries of state, Department of Defense officials, including the Secretary of Defense, the Undersecretary of Defense for...
Can we FOIA Obama's We're FOIAing Obama's emails. We're going to FOIA Obama's emails, and we're going to FOIA whoever was the DNI back then, James Clapper. We're just FOIA them for MH370. We want to hear every single thing that Obama said to every single person related to MH370. And within like a couple of years, because if they were calling every day, there's got to be a paper trail. We know from Florence and Chang they were calling every day. God damn, this interview has given me so many good FOIA avenues. Yeah, we can FOIA that. I wonder who we FOIA for that type of information.
Intelligence, and at that time it was called Intelligence and Security, INS, and the Undersecretary.
Oh, Brennan was the CIA director. Good info. We're going to FOIA all of them. So we want all emails from James Clapper, John Brennan, and President Barack Obama within, let's call it, maybe a couple months before and after related to MH370. Hell, what if we found an email from Obama before MH370 happened related to MH370? That'd be wild.
Defense for Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics, ATL, and a whole host of CIA officers, but numbering like very few, from various parts of the CIA, including logistics, technical officers such as myself, people responsible for making this program run. There was a few NSA personnel on it, no DIA personnel whatsoever on it. I don't recall the then director of DIA being on that list. So yes, you can have.
So the director of the DIA was not even on the list. Huh. So what if General Flynn knows that some sketchy shit happened with MH370? Because you would still know, like, you know, something's wrong. People are, I mean, something that big, you know? What if like General Flynn knows some sketchy shit happened, but he just was never part of the Bigot list, so he never officially knows? Maybe General Flynn is following me because he knows something weird happened with that plane. He was left out of the loop. That would be fucking wild.
Have a very tightly controlled program without a major officer of the intelligence community on that program. The fact of the director of DIA knew about these programs, that's one level of a SAC. The fact of that, you know, this program exists. That's what Admiral Wilson knew, but he wanted to know more.
Oh, so I know the Wilson Davis memo. That's one of the UFO lore things I do know about related to Eric Davis, is that Admiral Wilson, and then Greer talked to Admiral Wilson too. And basically Admiral Wilson was like left out. Like he didn't get to know about the details. So Admiral's like the highest rank in the Navy. So like the highest dudes in the Navy weren't even told about the crazy shit we were doing.
And he was denied that. The programmatics, as we call it, the logistics, the budget, the location, the progress made in that program, all of the details at the program level, he was denied. And I believe.
So think about this, guys. Like, just realize what we're talking about here. Like, the guys in the Navy that were like the admirals in the Navy, they're the ones that have to come up with all the strategic and operational commands. They weren't even made aware of stuff like balls of orbs of light that we can just float around. They're not even made aware of any of the program details related to that. You can't know anything about it. You can just know that there's a program that exists. That's it. Like, that's wild. No wonder then you would see people see balls of light. And even people, this is why they say even people in the military have no idea that we're looking at our own technology, because this is the level of compartmentalization with these Bigot lists and all this stuff that makes it so that you can be like the highest ranked military officer and you cannot, and you don't know what's going on.
That that's possible based on my own experience with this other program. Now, I just want to say that I was the control access program officer for this at a very brief time because I did not want to have this responsibility. So I returned it to the sponsoring office, which I cannot reveal. But I returned it saying, I don't want this job.
So he was going to give it a job where it's like, hey, here's some shit, but if you take this job, you're going to know some stuff where if you say anything, we have to kill you. That's what I'm reading between the lines right here. And he's like, you know what? I don't want this responsibility, bro. He's like, I don't want to be the one that knows about the blue telepathic aliens that are mind raping people like that. Then I have to get killed if I say anything about it. Nah, I'm good on that. Like, I can see why you would turn down a job like that.
But it was very, very insightful to see who was on that Bigot list and who was not on the Bigot list. Now, secondly, I happen to know
that thing where he says about the Bigot list and like the people being on it or not on it. Like, the fact that he says that's very insightful. What does he mean there? Like, read between the lines right there. What would be very insightful about reading a list of names? Well, which agencies are involved and which agencies know and which ones don't, and how far down the list in terms of the rank. Like, if one of them's people in the CIA, how many people in the CIA are on that list relative to people in like the DIA or the Navy? And another thing that would be interesting is, what if there's like an engineer on that list or a physicist on that list, like Eric Davis? That would be very illuminating. If you're looking at a Bigot list and you see Dr. Eric W. Davis on the Bigot list, doesn't that make you go, wait, what? This physicist is on a Bigot list, but the Navy, the admirals of the Navy aren't on it, and the director of the DIA is not on it? What the fuck does this guy know? I think he's talking about, that's what I think from when I read between the lines there, that's what I think he's talking about. Because then it just goes directly into talking about Eric Davis.
Oh, Eric Davis in a way that he does not know I know him.
And what did he just say right there? You just heard John Ramirez say, I know about Eric Davis in a way that he does not know I know about him. What the fuck? That is wild. That I can't, if anybody ever says this, like if I'm watching a stream and they go, I know about Ashton Forbes in a way that he doesn't know I know about him. The fuck are you, my stalker? What are you talking about, bro? Like, what are you talking about right now? He just said that about Eric Davis, guy that worked in the CIA for 25 years. Just said there's people on a Bigot list. It's really interesting when you learn about the types of people that are on the Bigot list. And then says, I know Eric Davis, guy who wrote Teleportation Physics Study in a way that he doesn't know I know about him. What the fuck? That is some ominous shit, chat. That is ominous, right?
And I can't reveal, I don't have his permission.
I can't reveal how I know about Eric Davis, stuff that he doesn't know about himself or that he doesn't know that I know about. Like, okay, man, this is some spycraft shit.
From Dr. Eric Davis to reveal how.
Yeah, well, is my phone going to self-destruct after this stream? It literally feels that way, especially because nobody's asking him any questions. This just feels like he gave this hard drive to somebody and Project Unity just uploaded it on his channel. Isn't that what this feels like? If anything, this is more of a letter to Eric Davis than it is to Project Unity. Or maybe even to me. Like, I don't know. What is this, man? Like, this is the kind of shit I'm talking about, though. Yes, Yahtzee, 100%. I almost want to go make a drink because this is so crazy. I've been sitting here saying for months that Eric Davis knows some shit. Just from reading his science papers. That's like basically it. Like, he has to know some shit. You don't write Teleportation Physics Study without knowing some stuff. He's co-authored on like all of Hal Puthoff's papers. And Hal Puthoff, like, I would literally bow to this guy. And I would not even get starstruck if I was in front of like LeBron James or like George Clooney. I wouldn't even faze me. But if I meet Hal Puthoff, I'm gonna geek out. And he just knows him too. So come on, what's going on here, guys?
I would know him. But there are several CIA officers in a managerial capacity that knew him. And so I hope that Eric Davis will reach out to me or I can reach out to him to see if I can tell the rest of the story. And if you hear the rest of the story of how these CIA officers know Eric Davis, I think it will surprise you based on the timeline of what Eric Davis was doing at the time, his work with the Air Force Research Labs, and his subsequent work with OSAC.
Okay, just, guys, I mean, did you just listen to what he said right there? This is just fucking bazingo. He's basically saying like Eric Davis was on some sketchy secret program. That's pretty much what he's saying right now. That's how he knows, because he saw the lists, the Bigot lists. So he knows that Eric Davis was connected on some crazy program. Next thing you know, Eric Davis is writing papers on teleportation and co-authoring papers on extracting energy from the vacuum with Hal Puthoff, who's also, by the way, been writing about engineering the vacuum for warp drives and stuff like this. So what was when Eric Davis, we need to look up his history. If someone can figure out what Eric Davis was doing, and like UFO people probably already know about this, I just don't know anything about the lore of all this stuff. Like, what research projects was he working on? Probably in like, I'm going to say the late 90s and then the early 2000s, because John Ramirez like retired in 2007. So probably before then, and then probably late 1990s. I want to know what Eric Davis was doing. Guys, if anything would get me quote unquote silenced, let's just say, is probably doing what I'm doing right now. Researching people on stream, like directors of national intelligence and physicists that like have seen some orbs probably. But I love Eric Davis, honestly. I've never met him, but anybody that writes a teleportation physics study is okay by me, chat.
And that's all I can say for now. Eric, I would love to hear from you. So what does the government know and what doesn't it know?
Wow.
Well, the government knows a lot, and you know the government knows a lot. More than what
I want to make that the beginning of I might just clip that into my letter to Aaron Rodgers video and just go, the government knows a lot, guys. They know a lot. A Boeing 777 just disappearing in 2014 off the face of the earth. That's not something the government doesn't know about. Okay. We know a lot more than the public's aware of.
they're willing to share more than what they've released in FOIA. I would say this, that as we progress forward, since 2017, a landmark year for ufology, the government seems to be able to address this more openly. We have the release of the book, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, and I have my own presentation, which I thought would be redacted in many, many ways, but it went through completely without redaction. And I say the phenomenon.
That's interesting. I may end up having to watch that I don't really have 2.5 hours, but listening to him talk about the CIA operation for 2.5 hours would be pretty interesting, guys. This is John Ramirez, guys, former CIA. I think whatever he said, G15 or whatever is like the highest rank you can get in the military. So when it comes to military ranks, like he was as high as you can go until you start getting special names. And then he was talking about the operations of the CIA and the intelligence communities. Very interesting. I get the vibe from him. He's telling the absolute 100% truth. He's not lying at all here. The way he's just like so calmly saying it all and he's ready to go with it. Like this is somebody like that's on their deathbed that they want this recorded so that in the future when people watch it, like they can be like, oh yeah, this guy knew. Like that's the vibe I get right now.
With a capital P, because that's the way the government kind of lumps it all together. Whether it be like metallic craft, light energy orbs, presence of ETs in a corporeal sense, higher consciousness, what's being channeled, what's being experienced, it's all labeled under the phenomenon, including, as we learned, the more disturbing aspects of the phenomenon, which appear to be malevolent to
who became a program director at DARPA?
Human beings. So it's all lumped under phenomenon. And the fact that we can discuss
Eric Davis did? Eric Davis became a program director at DARPA? Is that real, Ryan? Where's Ryan getting all this info? I need to know, chat.
Discuss this now is a big step forward. Now, as far as what the government doesn't know, I addressed it.
No, it's probably not a different Dr. Eric Davis. It's probably that one. So I think you just fell into the trap here, though. So this is one thing I want to say, too. I don't really talk about aliens very much because, again, I just don't care. Everybody's so obsessed with aliens. Who cares, man? Are you going to have sex with a green alien? No. So what? If aliens exist, so what, man? We're not going to just all of a sudden become like part of the Galactic Federation or whatever people are imagining. The other thing too is that I think a lot of people, because of what he just explained with the Bigot list thing, a lot of people are just not read into a lot of the projects, and a lot of people just think, well, this science is unknowable. I say this from time to time. They say the science of UFOs is unknowable. No human can comprehend it, and so therefore they think those orbs can't be us. That has to be aliens. You see people on both sides do this. This is where I think some of these engineers fall into the trap, where they're like, no, this is not something we can explain, therefore it's got to be aliens. Everything that I've seen, at least in terms of videos that are out there that I think are credible, can absolutely be explained by human beings using science, 100%. I've not ever seen anything where I thought that's something crazy that's real, but we can't explain it. So this is where I think people get caught up too much in the whole thing of like aliens or what have you. I think people should be put more credit on the human race. Our materials engineering is a lot more advanced than I thought it was. We can make microchips, again, that are as big as the tip of my nail. The tip of my nail, not even the whole nail, just the tip of my nail. That's how big the microchips are. Okay. It's not about scaling this technology up. It's about scaling the technology down. Whoever can make it the smallest. Let's go back. Let's finish this. We have like 1 more minute.
This phenomenon that seems to be malevolent or from strangers, I call it, The government, I think, is still grappling with that issue. And I say strangers in the sense that it is my personal belief that there are residents, visitors, and strangers. Residents being, I believe, entities that have been here long before humanity appeared, and in fact, may have had some hand in making us who we are today.
That's really interesting. Now, so what I just said, right? I said I don't like that people just jump straight to aliens, and I think a little bit that's what he's doing here. But at the same time, this is a guy that just explained all the inner workings of the CIA, basically outed Eric Davis, saying that he knows the secret projects that Eric Davis has worked on, but he doesn't want to say so unless Eric Davis gives him permission. You know, I'm going to listen to what he's got to say here. Also, I think that if there are aliens, I agree. I think it's probably been with us this whole time, like in the oceans or something, like ultra terrestrials or whatever. Hal Puthoff, by the way, has a paper literally called Ultra Terrestrials. Interesting.
Otherwise, we'd still be primates with bonobos, chimpanzees, and gorillas. We're not. We've been elevated. And I believe it is the residents who did this. And I know that's very controversial, but it's a personal belief. That's how I sort it out for myself.
Basically, John Ramirez thinks that the X-Files situation is what's going on, hybrids and shit, and that they took monkeys and turned them into humans. Okay, sure, whatever. I mean, look, man, I believe teleportation is possible. I'm not really going to rip on you.
And the visitors might actually be from other worlds. And the strangers, I don't know where they're from, but it seems very frightening to read the accounts of people, documented people who have experienced very disastrous effects, very tragic effects with their health from encountering the disturbing aspects of the phenomenon.
Okay, so the last thing I'll say there is that the Havana syndrome stuff is very real. Like people are literally, and it makes sense. It's not a situation like long COVID where people are just making something up because they don't feel well or whatever. Like the Havana syndrome is a real thing that's happening to people. You do not want people blasting you with gravity waves, which is our next topic that we're going to be digging into. As we dug into scalar technology as well, it may have the ability to heal you, but maybe it can give you cancer. Maybe it can stop your heart. Maybe if it's used like a Tesla death ray, like they just cut off all electrical impulses to your body. Boom, you just fall over. So you don't mess around with directed energy weapons. And if those things are hitting you, even inadvertently, like you're too close to an orb, or if there are flying saucers that are using like the Thomas Townsend Brown effect, if that stuff's real, it's out there. You don't want to be underneath it. You don't want to be next to it. Like you should treat it the same way you would treat something that's just radioactive, in my opinion. Because we're talking about very, very high voltages for some of this stuff to work. Okay. Now let's take a look we're going to look at this Amy Eskridge thing because it's really good. And then I also explain gravity waves for people because the concept of the gravity waves is very important to understand from the overall perspective of all this stuff. So people know at this point LIGO, laser interferometer, something or other is what it stands for. LIGO. LIGO is detecting gravitational waves in outer space. LIGO can detect when two neutron stars connect and form a black hole. LIGO can see that. And they can see the ripples, the gravitational ripples. Now, why do we know there's gravitational ripples? Because when two forces that are giving off waves hit one another, there's going to be constructive and deconstructive interference on their wave patterns. So we can see the ripples in gravity in space-time from the gravitational manipulation. So we know gravity waves are a thing. They've been proven now at this point. LIGO has proven it. And what we're seeing there are low frequency gravitational waves. So the wavelength is inversely proportional to the frequency. So the lower the frequency, the longer the wavelength is going to be. Okay, so imagine like really long wavelength. So we can detect really long wavelength gravity waves. Why are we not seeing other civilizations out there? I'm going to also make a bold prediction. I think life is everywhere. I think that when we have our sensor looking for the right thing, the whole universe is going to light up with signals. I think that when we use basic radio signals, we're trying to transmit below the speed of light, but the speed of light is too low, too slow to be able to transmit information in the universe. It's too large. The moment we use gravity waves, I think we're going to see the transmissions everywhere. I think that potentially we can have faster than light communication using gravity waves as well. I don't have any proof of that, but I just strongly believe that faster than light communication is possible. And I think gravity waves are the way to basically send a signal through the ether faster than the speed of light. So when we our LIGO is basically looking for low frequency gravitational waves. Well, what's a high frequency gravitational wave then? High frequency gravitational wave is something like this. So that means its wavelength is very short compared to the low frequency gravitational waves. So these are two completely different sensor apparatus. Now, what if I told you that the high frequency gravitational waves, those are ones that the aliens are using. Those are the ones that we are using. Those are the ones that people produce. It's almost like when you look at Mars and we find methane on Mars, seasonal methane on Mars. That's a biosignature. That's a biosignature that there's life somewhere on Mars. There is life. There's probably bacterial life underneath the crust. I've said this for many, many, many years. Because we see the seasonal methane. It's a sign of life. Farts. It's not generally produced by cyclical geological activity. Same thing when it comes to gravity waves. The low frequency gravitational waves are just stellar objects interacting in the sky. We want the high frequency gravitational waves for very localized effects. We want to see when someone makes a wormhole or when somebody's ship is bending gravity around it by making a warp drive. Those are what we want to be looking for, and those are high frequency gravitational waves. So now, hopefully you just realized this is how they've just been able to keep us in the dark. It's actually very simple once you understand what LIGO is doing, and the reason why LIGO is not detecting other civilizations, it's not meant to do that. It's not even looking for frequency waves that we would be able to produce in a lab. So now what do I want to know about? I want to know who is writing papers on high frequency gravitational waves, because those people understand the implication of what I just described. Those people probably know something in order to study a high frequency gravitational wave compared to what LIGO is doing. Now, before we do that, I want to look at the history of gravity. We're going to go through this pretty quickly, I think. We'll see. And maybe I won't review all the papers, but instead just kind of show you guys where they're at and show maybe the beginning and the end. Chat, where the hell is it? Oh, here it is. Okay. So this is the HAL 5 presentation, A Historical Perspective on Anti-Gravity by Amy Eskridge. Rest in peace, Amy Eskridge. Amy Eskridge, I don't really just say this in the simping way, but like she left us way too soon. This is from 2018. So this was, I only woke up, 5 years ago, basically 6 years ago, but a year ago as well. So, and 5 years after this is when I woke up. So she was already awake and knew some shit was going on. And who else is high? I wish I was, chat. I wish I was so bad, man. Because this is amazing. Like, so she does a whole presentation here where she goes through the whole history of gravity research. So if you're ever interested in any stuff related to gravity research, then this is the people she lists in this presentation, the people that I would take a look at. Also, I'm very curious to who else is on the team, especially because her dad is on the team, Richard Eskridge. So he was a technical lead at Marshall Space Laboratory. Marshall Space NASA Laboratory is not only where Richard Eskridge was a technical lead, but in the video that I shared on my Twitter of Stephen Greer, he mentions that's one of the locations where they're like working on this kind of science. Oh, her family is connected to Redstone. That wouldn't surprise me because I believe Redstone's in Huntsville, Alabama, and that's where they lived as well. A lot of PhDs in Huntsville, Alabama. Pretty weird considering it's considered a redneck place, but instead you got the smartest people on the planet there. Pretty bizarre. Okay. No, we would not feel gravity just because it's weaving, unfortunately. I mean, oh, you mean like hypothetically would we feel it? Like if we actually had a ripple? Yeah, we don't have any ripples here, but you might feel it. Who knows? It might feel like a vertigo. Maybe earthquakes are how you would feel it. In fact, I think you could argue that earthquakes are giving off gravitational waves. You might be able to argue that, right? If you have the two parts of the mass are vibrating, I mean, that maybe that's a gravitational wave. I might actually look into that later. That's interesting. Okay, let's keep going. Wait, Huntsville is also what Eric Davis calls his primary place of residence on LinkedIn. Okay, Ryan, you're doing a great job, Ryan, but you might be doxing him a little bit too much at this point. I think we're convinced Eric Davis knows some shit. Okay, so then here you go. I mean, you know, when you have this kind of nepotism going on, and your dad is like got patents and scientific papers for plasma fusion reactors and stuff like that, or I think it's actually not fusion. I think it's fission. I don't know how to look up anyway. So gravity, anti-gravity, force that interacts between mass and particles. If you guys have been watching my stuff, then you know that all about gravity and how we have to interpret gravity as a 0-point fluctuation, energy pressure differential. So then what is anti-gravity? I don't like the term anti-gravity. I use gravity manipulation, but in this case, we're talking about basically a counteracting force to the force of gravity. Technically, gravity has been considered to be only unidirectional, that it can only pull and it can't push. That's where I think that, because they think that you need negative energy or negative mass in order to push with gravity. Well, we understand that once you understand there's an equilibrium level and we can go up or down. Up is increasing the grass and increasing the mass, reducing the mass, reducing the gravity. That's the negative. 100%. That's how it should be thought of. And this is the part where the reason why this confuses people is people think that space is empty. If space is empty and there's nothing in it, you can't go down into the minus. But if space is not empty and there's energy in it, then you can go down into the minus. And if you go down into the minus, then you're in a situation where you should feel a reverse gravity effect. So this is also the reason why a free energy device will produce reverse gravity. It probably depends on which way you have it, the vector of travel, but this is why I can do that. Okay, so Copernicus, Newton's law of gravitation, blah, blah, blah. Let's get into the good stuff. Gravity is a deformation of space-time. So again, think of it as the peaks and valleys. Anti-gravity, they claim it's impossible. So basically what I just said for you guys, in the standard model, particle physics does not include negative mass. So the standard model is basically missing negative energy as one of its possibilities. And that's what we understand from the 0-point energy field. Gravity is the one force that hasn't been unified with the rest, at least according to conventional physicists. I'd say it's already been unified since 1926, but over almost 100 years ago. So in the early days, you had the Byfield-Brown effect, Thomas Townsend Brown. He's the one who coined electrogravitics, really interesting. Vacuum tests supposedly rule out ion wind. And I think we just messed up because we were looking for wind, but that's not what we needed. We need something that's quantum. We're not on a sailboat looking for wind. We are trying to dig into the very essence of the smallest scales and where all energy comes from. High voltages with asymmetrical high dielectric fields. Asymmetric capacitance. This is basically what I've been saying about keeping your dipole open. And it also adds Tesla's theories of using high voltages. So remember, we watched The Real Mysteries of Tesla. I think it was last week around this same time, or maybe it was on Friday. You know, there you go. There's already one of the things that we've been looking at. So we're seeing a lot of patterns in terms of how people are explaining the science here. Yeah, standard is most likely incomplete. Okay. So here's Nikola Tesla's space drive. Interesting. I didn't know Tesla made a vehicle like this. That's pretty cool. Or at least he drew one. Even the fact that he drew something like that is wild. And then there's even a book, Space Drive. Tesla's hidden space drive propulsion system and the conspiracy to conceal it. That's interesting. If anyone can find that book, I'd be curious. Gravity Research Foundation in 1948 gets founded. Annual prize won by Stephen Hawking. And 5 Nobel laureate prize winners. Okay. Okay, we'll skip some of the quotes. Contractor programs at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Then Lockheed Skunk Works as well is tied to this. So this is the reason why people are all over Lockheed Skunk Works. It's like basically we brought it underneath. Oh, and then actually there's an interesting slide in the 70s that's coming up here in a second. serial generator. Here's the literal generator that I showed you guys. Now, this one I think is from Jason Verbelli, whatever his name is. But the one that I showed you guys was the Meg version of it, which was the one from Kepler Aerospace. I'm pretty sure Kepler Aerospace is legit because supposedly, at least according to that Reddit post and some people I talked to, they've gotten lots of money and grants for some of the stuff they've developed. And so, yeah, I think that, and the people that are tied to Kepler Aerospace are pretty big, including the guy whose scientific papers we're going to look at here right after this, Robert M.L. Baker. He was also tied to Kepler Aerospace. The Dean drive. So this one is like basically a first EM drive. I didn't even know stuff that goes this far back. Reactionless drive claimed to produce propulsion without propellant. I don't know anything about the Dean drive, but that definitely, like, this might be the first ever EM drive, possibly, unless you consider the Byfield-Brown effect, which may be. Wallace machine, another one that I haven't ever heard of, unsubstantiated. I'm going to skip over that one. This lathe white gyroscopes one is interesting, 1974, because gyroscopes are how we use autopilot, or at least it's how we used to use. This is how we developed autopilot. They use gyroscopes. And basically, they were able to get the gyroscope to always line up towards the center of the Earth. And this is also a reason why the Earth is 100% round. The gyroscopes actually prove that the Earth is round. Like, this is how we actually fly airplanes, and we know how we don't accidentally crash our airplane. Because otherwise, when we're trying to autopilot the plane, because of the curvature, this plane is going to be off altitude. You've got to always keep your plane perpendicular to the sphere of the Earth that we're on. Okay. Okay, this is the one. The Mansfield Amendment, guys. So this Mansfield Amendment is one where somebody found the book on the ether. I can't copy that. Can somebody put that in the Discord, or if it's not already in the Discord? I appreciate it. Maybe ping me on it. The Mansfield Amendment, 1973, restricted research by the DoD for non-military applications. So does that mean they can't? Oh, so the DoD can't research anything that's not military. Wow. Did you guys know this? This is like as big as the Invention Secrecy Act. The Mansfield Amendment included anti-gravity research. So the government is not allowed to research anti-gravity. Did anybody know this? The government's not allowed to research anti-gravity since 1973. This means most modern anti-gravity research has been outsourced to the private sector. So the government doesn't even know. This is why the intelligence communities know, but the military doesn't know. Even the military doesn't potentially know, because all the research has to be done by the Lockheed Martins and the Northrop Grummans. They're just legally not even allowed. Wild. I want to write that down. What was that one called? 1973 Mansfield Amendment. That to me seems wild, chat. Hutchinson effect in the 90s. So I know Bob Grenier is a big fan of Hutchinson, I believe, because he thinks he's showing some of the right capabilities and requirements for low energy nuclear reactions. There might be a teleportation effect there happening as well, they believe. The Woodward effect and the Mach effect, another reactionless thruster. So this is another EM drive, probably. This is theorized to enable a warp drive. Okay, we're looking at this one. Jim Woodward, huh? We got a lot of good leads here. This is why you look at, so honestly, guys, if you're, hopefully you're not bored by this, but looking into the history of this is just as important as understanding the science. Because not only is it a matter of, oh, yes, the science is real, you need to be able to reference the people that were the legit ones that actually figured it out. Because everybody's basically been discredited, it's out there, but you'll find that some of them have just been ignored, just straight up ignored. People just, the way they if you don't get enough attention, then they just don't look at you. They don't have to say anything negative about you. And people just claim it. If it was real, it'd be on CNN. Large negative mass in the small point theorized to create a stable wormhole. I'm sorry, excuse me, what? She just said traversable wormholes as well. Alcubierre, I don't think, I would say warp drive is Alcubierre drive. I think that a wormhole is not Alcubierre drive, but maybe I have to think through that. When I think Alcubierre drive, I'm thinking warp drive, pulling space around you. With respect to a wormhole, I imagine it more of like puncturing through the paper. Okay. I don't know. Can somebody tell me what this patent is? Can you just tell me what the name of the patent is? I can't, for some reason, I can't pull links at all from the chat, unfortunately. It doesn't work when I'm doing StreamYard. Okay, and there's only a few more. Ning Li and Doug Tor, AC Gravity. So I think their LLC was called AC Gravity. And if you look into Ning Li's work, she was working on superconductors related to gravity. I think to me, it's just absolutely crazy that people don't realize that she figured it out. Because there's another guy named Eugene Potklanov who also figured it out as well in the 90s, both the exact same way. Using he did it with ceramic superconductors. They call it YBCO superconductors. Ning Li just disappears for 20 years. Apparently, she signs a contract with DARPA and then no trace of her after that. So basically, she gets pulled into the Black Project. She never had any social media, so there was nothing to even have to delete. And then she just doesn't ever go back out into the public for 20 years. And then who comes across? Eugene Potklanov. Eugene Potklanov once again. So Potklanov comes around, rotating YBCO superconductor, produces gravity shielding. Keep in mind, Potklanov probably didn't understand the concept of zero-point energy being the explanation for gravity. Just keep that in mind. 2001 patent. So he has a patent that was out there. He showed the results. I don't even know how this has been discredited. Does anyone even know who claimed that it didn't work? Yeah, like this is the thing where like when people claim something doesn't work, the standard of proof for claiming something doesn't work is trust me, bro. It's like, okay, doesn't work. Why? Because some guy said it doesn't work. Okay, well, but did they do any results? Can we verify their evidence? Did they do it? Did they recreate the experiment correctly? Right? Like, nope, doesn't matter. We don't need to look into any of that. But if it's real, it's like, how many major news stations did you show it on? How many patents do you have for it? Can I reproduce it? If I can't reproduce it at home using my materials in my garage, then it's not real. It's like the standard of evidence of the difference between the two is absolutely just absurd. And if you don't believe me, read some of the replies to my some of my Twitter posts. Widely panned by the community. Okay, great. What the fuck does that mean? And this is what I'm talking about, is that like people just go, it's not possible, because they don't understand it and they don't understand the physics, which I think is just crazy. Like, if anything, the things I would want us to get out of anti-gravity being real, gravity manipulation being real, is I first of all want people to realize their lives are a lie, and that basically like we just believe a bunch of bullshit that's out there. And we just take it at face value. And then people think that the real stuff is the stuff that's fake, and the fake stuff they're being told is the stuff that's real. The other thing I would want people to realize is that like the community just shits on everything without anybody doing any real research, and everybody just follows the herd like a bunch of fucking sheep. Like, these are the things that need to go away when we realize that this technology is real. We have to stop being cynical assholes about everything, and we need to put in some actual work, and we need to have the standard of evidence of something being real or fake to be exactly the same. They can't be this is the standard of evidence for something being real, and this is the standard of evidence for something being fake. This is why we're holding ourselves back with science. Because at the end of the day, science is the discovery of, or the study of observable reality. Whatever experiments we do, whatever we see in that experiment, that's real life. What we predict based on equations is an approximation of what we are seeing in real life. Okay. So the Jose Vargas, this is one I had not seen, a gravity beam generator. Oh, maybe I did see this one. We might have to look at this one. Creation of inhomogeneous electric field with two asymmetrical hollow concentric electrodes. So it's going to make like a filter. Experimental quantum gravity still on their website. The present work unclear. So no one knows what happened to this thing. Oh, so Tor actually worked with Ning Li Oh, so Tor and Ning Li were the ones that produced it. So now, oh, okay. So we definitely want to look at this too. So we've missed this chat. So I'm glad we reviewed this because I'm finding a bunch more leads that we can look into. So we've got Ning Li, Potklanov, and then the person that worked with Ning Li right here, Tor, and he made a gravity beam generator. So these are people that figured it out. And I'm not sure, like you look at a lot of this stuff and like if it didn't get a lot of attention, then they don't have to attack it. But if it gets a lot of attention and starts getting popularity, people start waking up, then they've got to attack it. This is exactly what they did with LK99. Like LK99 started getting really big. People started learning what superconductivity was and what room temperature superconductivity was. And they had to come in and claim, oh, nope, this person claims they can't remake it. It must be fake. Like that was literally what happened. And then everybody on social media started spreading, oh, that got debunked. Somebody wasn't able to recreate it. It's debunked. Meanwhile, the people are like, what? Here's my LK99. I showed you guys a video of it just superconducting over a magnet. Okay. Popular Mechanics article no longer available. So the Popular Mechanics deleted an article about her. Somebody see if they can find that. Potklanov got ousted by the university that he was working at in 1997. Doug Tor, who worked at Ning Li, University of South Carolina research never made public. I mean, does that not seem suspicious to you guys? So we've got, this is crazy to me, okay? And then what happened to Modenese? Wikipedia page deleted? Wait, is that real? He doesn't have a Wikipedia page? Guys, I just Googled him, and there's no Wikipedia page. Okay, I don't know if you guys are going to even believe me. Hold on. How is this real? Modenese doesn't have a Wikipedia. Even Hal Puthoff has a Wikipedia page. He doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. His first page is Free University. And then Google Scholar. And then LinkedIn. No Wikipedia page. You guys don't, that's fucking weird, right? Yeah, literally doesn't. Oh, no, yeah, doesn't have it. Doesn't have a Wikipedia page. Let's look up these other ones real quick. Ning Li, first hit, Wikipedia. If I look up Eugene Potklanov, what do you guys think? What you guys think it's going to be? What do you think Wikipedia is going to be the first hit? I do. Yep, first hit. What about if I look up Eric Davis, Eric W. Davis? Oh, Eric W. Davis doesn't have one either. He doesn't have a Wikipedia page? Wow, that's crazy to me. Okay. Okay, chat. Let's go back. Interesting. Okay, I think that's good on that. Boeing Phantom Works, gravity for research advanced propulsion. Potklanov might have been a collaborator. Oh, Morningstar, Paul Murad and John Brandenburg. Paul Murad is another guy who I've seen on a lot of the scientific papers. Modified serial machine with gravioelectric magnetism. Using gem theory, yeah. Huh. So now you're trying to realize, too, even if it exists, like, that's just step one. Like, who are you selling it to? Who's going to buy that? Who's going to risk it? Okay. Oh, and then she's got listed, look at this. Holy shit, Amy. She posted this in 2018. This got declassified in 2017. So Amy knew, guys. Look at the papers she lists. The two papers she lists are the two best ones. Warp drive, dark energy, and manipulation of extra dimensions. That was written. I actually don't know who writes that one. And the other one, traversable wormhole stargates, negative energy. That one was Eric W. Davis. Wow. Wow. Very interesting, chat. Okay, I don't know which page has the stuff up. So Robert M.L. Baker died last year or 2 years ago, I think. He has his own Wikipedia page. Pull that up. So it's interesting to see who has a Wikipedia page and who doesn't. Let's see if they said any bullshit about him. PhD in engineering, specialization in aerospace. The first of its kind to be granted in the United States. He got the first engineering with aerospace PhD in the United States. He was UCLA summa cum laude. That's number one, highest rank, I think, or whatever the highest is, with physics. Master's and a PhD. Wow. He was a lecturer at UCLA. He was also a lecturer at the Air Force Academy. In 1961, he became director of Lockheed's Astrodynamics Research Center at Bel Air, California. Bob Baker was the director of Lockheed Martin's Astrodynamics Research Center. Holy shit, chat. Are you fucking kidding me? In 1961? No, he died of natural causes. He was like 80 something years old. In 1964, Baker joined the Computer Sciences Corporation as an associate major for mathematics. In 1980, he was elected president of West Coast University, accredited university for the adult learner. There's like nothing about his scientific work. Wait, he was a consultant for GravWave LLC. Interesting. What's GravWave LLC? Is that a thing that we have a thing? Yeah, we don't have a page for it, huh? Okay. So there's nothing else about him in his Wikipedia. But let's go look at his. Oh, and look, when I Google him, look, Kepler Aerospace. I didn't even know he was part of Kepler Aerospace. He was also just happens to be tied to Kepler Aerospace, guys. We're basically doing the Ian Carroll thing right now where we just investigate people today on this stream, it turns out. We've kind of mulliganed it. So here as well, this also lists out his Lockheed Martin thing somewhere in here. Oh, here's the other thing. He has other accolades. He was awarded Junior Chamber Commerceman of the Year and the 2011 Outstanding Lifetime Achievement in the field of high-frequency gravitational waves. You're really telling me you think gravitational waves are fake? Or high-frequency gravitational waves? You don't think we can produce them? This guy won a fucking award in 2011 for Lifetime Achievement for gravitational waves. Lifetime Achievement. Not just, hey, you wrote like one paper on gravity waves. This guy got the Lifetime Achievement Award. He was the vice chairman of the first International High-Frequency Gravitational Wave Conference and workshop at the MITRE Corporation in 2003. I think that's the one that we were looking at. Like, this is the dude who's like, okay, I want to know what you know, okay? Now, where are his papers? Oh, there's GravWave LLC right there. Okay, so his credentials are really good. Down here? There. I wish I had met this guy. I'm not going to go my life without meeting more of these dudes who I know are connected. I've never met them. I have no reason to believe it, or not believe it, whatever you want to say. But he was legit, 100% legit. I want to start down at the beginning of his papers and work our way up towards the recent ones, and then we'll pick a couple to read the. We'll read the intro and we'll read the conclusions on a couple of his papers. You guys can take a look at your own leisure as well. So 1975. So he's already been working, like he's talking about range safety debris pattern analysis, preliminary orbit determination method for no coplanar singularity. Okay. Cosmology and the door to other dimensions and universes. All of a sudden in 2003, he's co-authoring a paper with Paul Murad. who is also tied to the U.S. Air Force. Cosmology and the door to other dimensions and universes. Okay, that's a powerful starter. Okay, so after 25 years later, you're writing your paper, and it's about doors to other dimensions. Interesting. Next year later, solo, precursor proof of concept experiments for various categories of high frequency gravitational wave generators. So he just comes back after 25 years. He's writing about other dimensions and cosmology. And then his next paper is immediately a solo venture on high frequency gravitational wave generators. Okay. Then after that, an experimental program for assessing high frequency gravitational wave optical applications and precursor high frequency gravitational wave telescope. Okay, do you guys really think that we don't have a high frequency gravitational wave telescope? He wrote this paper in 2004. This was 20 years ago. So when I say, guys, we have a detector, a high frequency gravitational wave detector in Antarctica, it's pretty good educated guess because I'm reading scientific papers about producing them. And that was 20 years ago. So yes, I believe the military could have those capabilities. And Antarctica is perfect for it. It's really cold. If you need superconductors for any of this stuff, which we've seen from at least 2, 3, or more of the scientists that we were reviewing the history of gravitational waves on. Okay, so Antarctica seems like a good bet. Precursor experiments regarding the generation of HFGWs by means of using an array of micro and nano devices. Okay, nano devices? So that's really interesting. In fact, that one I want to, can I cue this up? We might read the header on that one because I want to know about that one. But here's another one. HFGWs by means of X-ray lasers and detection of coupling linearized gravitation to electromagnetic fields. So right there, he's saying we can produce high-frequency gravitational waves by lasers. X-ray has to do with the frequency of the lasers. So I believe X-rays and microwaves or whatever, the frequency just goes up and up and up. So now we're like basically high-frequency lasers can produce high-frequency gravitational waves. So I go, okay, well, how much can we ramp up our lasers? What if we had attosecond lasers? Could then we detect gravitational waves and even produce them? Radiation pattern at the focus of a high-frequency gravitational wave generator and aerospace applications. So look who this one's with, Eric Davis, 2005. So now all of a sudden he's writing scientific papers with Eric Davis. I actually didn't even know this. So we've directly connected him to Eric Davis, 2005. Same time where John Ramirez, John Ramirez was basically writing a love letter to Eric Davis going, great work. I saw which what was it, Bigots you're on? I saw the Bigot list with your name on it, Eric Davis. I know which things you worked on. Okay. Gravitational wave generation and detection using acoustic resonators and coupled resonant chambers. So if you're reading this, and this is with Clive Woods, you're starting to realize here that this guy is working through how to produce gravitational waves the best possible way. And he's advancing and very quickly. There's 5 papers in the year 2005. And then this one's really good. Applications for high frequency gravitational waves. I just thought, oh, well, okay, you can make a high frequency gravitational wave. You can make a warp drive or something. No, it goes way beyond just making a warp drive. Ultra high intensity lasers for gravitational wave detection and generation. Ultra high intensity. So if we read this and we find out there's a connection between attosecond lasers and high frequency gravitational waves, we kind of got to wonder, why did they win the Nobel Prize for attosecond lasers last year in 2000? Generation of gravitational waves with nuclear reactions. It just goes on and on and on. Piezoelectric crystal resonator, high frequency gravitational wave generation, and synchro resonance detection. Are you kidding me? Guys, I'm like a fucking kid in a candy store right now. I want a little bit of everything. Give me a Snickers. Give me some of the banana runs. Yes, I like the banana ones. Give me some sweet tarts. I want everything. Give me some Big League Chew. We'll chew on that later. Look at these papers. And now we're still just up to 2017. This is a microwave beam. Oh, man, what? Or not even 2017, 2007. Where's that one? quadrupole equation for potential stellar gravitational wave power estimation. I don't even know how to understand this one. When we talk about quadrupole, I think we're talking about like a region of space-time, a three-dimensional region of space-time. But I may not even be understanding it correctly. Coupling of an open cavity to a microwave beam. Possible new scheme for detecting high-frequency gravitational waves. My dude was just in the zone. He writes like 10 papers in the course of 2 years, maybe even more. High-frequency gravitational wave induced nuclear fusion. Notice he's not saying fission, fusion. Nuclear fusion is a process in which nuclei having a total initial mass combine to produce a single nucleus having a final mass less than the total initial. Below, a given atomic number of the process is exothermic. Okay. Surveillance apparatus for high frequency gravitational waves. Surveillance apparatus. So what, you're going to spy on me with high frequency gravitational waves? You're not just going to like, go make spaceships fly around? You're going to beam that shit at me? Giorgio Fontana and Paul Murad. Okay, well, this one's really interesting. Hyperspace for space travel. Well, that's one where when you're talking about hyperspace, this is the idea of going straight through the ether. This is the idea of a wormhole right here. And it also could be the idea of a very fast warp drive as well. Hyperspace travel. There you go. We're still in 2007. The influence of high-frequency gravitational waves upon muscles. Like, first of all, guys, like, we've just gone through, like, the names of 20 papers, and this is just in, like, the first 4 years that he started writing papers in the 2000s. Like, 20 papers here, all on high-frequency gravitational waves. Do you guys think that he just invented the idea of high-frequency gravitational waves? Like, isn't it just proven at this point we can make them? Like, you don't write 20 papers about a subject without like literally having seen it directly, He's not just making shit up here. This is the guy that was literally like the director of Lockheed Martin. He's not just making stuff up, This guy's not an idiot. And then in 2008, analysis of the frequency and intensity of laboratory generated high frequency gravitational waves. So obviously they're real because this paper right here is an analysis of the frequency and intensity. So this is basically figuring out like how powerful can we make a negative energy laser? How powerful can we make it? And who's on this? Gary Stevenson. That's an interesting name to remember because he comes up again. Proposed ultra high sensitivity high frequency gravitational wave detector. So there you go. Now they've got a high frequency gravitational wave detector. So why do you guys think that I think that Antarctica has a high frequency gravitational wave detector? Well, there's just a scientific paper from some dude who's like director at Lockheed Martin in 2008, 16 years ago. To me, it just seems like pretty damn obvious. Okay, and there's so many papers that I'm actually going to have to skip ahead for some that are a little different. But you look through and you see that he was basically researching how to optimize a high frequency gravitational wave and how to produce it. There's Gary Stevenson again. So one thing you notice as well is some of these people, like they find one partner for one paper and maybe it's okay. Some of them, they go back to the same people over and over and over again. It seems like he did one with Eric Davis and then he just went on a tear. High frequency gravitational waves, including ring devices. I mean, just for the records, guys, I'm going to read every single one of these papers, but you can see there's a lot. There's a lot. It's going to take me several months to get through all his papers. I guarantee you, without any doubt, I will read every single one of Robert M.L. Bob Baker's papers. I already have a really good idea, though, of how you produce gravitational waves, just from what we've already been talking about for many, many months and reading many of the scientific papers already that we've looked at out there, including a lot of Lee's research, Paul Kanaw's research as well. Okay, coherent minimum uncertainty states of gravitons. I don't know what that's all about. Sounds crazy. Detection of high frequency gravitational waves by superconductors. 2000. We're still in 2007, by the way, chat over here. So he also did a detection of high frequency gravitational waves by superconductors. So why do I think that Antarctica has 450,000 gallons of super cooled, super fluid helium-3? Because it's a really good way to cool superconductors. Superconductors generally need very low temperatures, near absolute zero. I mean, we know that's not necessarily true, but for maybe 20 years ago, maybe. So when I read this, I go, okay, shit. Ann, Ning, Lee, and Pakhanov were also researching gravitational waves by superconductors. To me, there's got to be a connection there. That's just my opinion. Utilization of high frequency gravitational waves for global communications, generator apparatus. I mean, my dude loved, like, he's got to be the #1 ever expert, like the GOAT. He's the GOAT of gravitational waves. Bob Baker is the GOAT gravitational wave man. Period. There's nobody that's got these are all peer-reviewed scientific papers too. Nobody's got this much stuff other than him. Simple as that. Generation of gravitational waves by lasers, where that one was. So the ones I'm mostly interested in are like gravitational waves based on lasers, gravitational waves based on what was the other one? Superconductors. Those are the ones that interest me the most. Lasers and superconductors. God, there's so many. Analysis of the speed of time. And so now he starts getting some real crazy shit. And this was just like a few years before he died. Value. And so what you realize too is these guys never retire. Because if all you're doing is doing science and shit that's awesome, would you ever retire? I'm never retiring. If I get to work on gravity wave shit and make like black hole weapons and plasma orbs, why would I retire from that? That's like the best possible life, in my opinion, but I'm a big nerd, so. Interdisciplinary communication. I mean, look at all the stuff we're talking about. What was this one? Evolution of forms of life in our universe. That's pretty weird. And then dark matter, dark energy rollout theory concept. Basically, he's saying we don't need dark matter and dark energy to explain the universe. Yeah, because we know there's energy everywhere. So so there's some that'll be interesting to read, guys. Yeah, Tupacabra is with me, man. Honestly, Tupacabra, like I hope that Tupacabra is right and it ends up being angels or demons or some shit. Like, to me, that would be like the most exciting because I like horror movies and it's usually like ghosts and shit like that. Like, to me, if it turns out that it's like some demons or something like that with the whatever the situation is with this stuff, like that'd be pretty cool. And I think the stock goes way up. The angels and demons option goes way up when you consider that it's like maybe balls of plasma or something like that. Because if you could, in my opinion, easily argue that if there's a sentient ball of energy floating around that's sentient, then that's a pretty good, like, demons and angels is pretty, you're close enough. We're giving you partial credit at least at that point, you know? So, shit, I'm just saying, angels and demons is looking better right now than space aliens and little green men. Don't at me, chat. Don't at me. I'm just saying. Okay, let me show some of these papers. This one might be a little too weird. Maybe go from the back. Analysis of the speed of time. Okay, that I don't know why it's not letting me see it. Oh, you have to request these? Okay, well, we're only going to read the abstract then. Hyperspace for space travel. And by the way, if you're looking for papers and you see this request full, never do this. Just look the name of the paper up with the name of the author. And usually these people have like published it to their website or like stuff like Kepler Aerospace has them published. You never should have to pay for any of these papers. Okay. The theory of relativity is time is treated as a dimension. Yes. What's this paper? Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, so he's saying that he's explaining hyperspace. Hyperspace is basically the ether. So one thing you'll notice as well, which I think is important, is that sometimes you'll hear people use different terms, and really their theories are not necessarily incompatible. Now, if you're, I'm not going to name names, but if you're coming at me with like general relativity is all fake, and so the ether is also fake as well, I'm like, okay, we're just too far apart, But if you're coming at me and you're saying, yes, we can bend space time, we can teleport an object through a wormhole, we can make gravitational waves and ripples, and then you explain hyperspace. To me, it's not even a matter, like, we're saying the same thing. We are conceptualizing it slightly different. Because this is what we mean when we say hyperspace, like, or you could say like holographic principle, where like the only way to explain it is I'm taking my piece of paper and I'm folding it up and I'm puncturing a hole through it. And you go, that's cool when it's a piece of paper, but when you think about it like space time, then it makes you wonder, like, wait, what? How can you do that with space time? It's not. I thought it was space time was like a fabric. We're literally bending it in a way where like our brains can't even comprehend what we're doing to the geometry. Okay. So basically saying there's a hyperspace, everything normally travels at the speed of light, but a localized strong gravitational field, which creates a propagation speed discontinuity in hyperspace, may allow for travel to different local universes or faster than light travel within the same local universe. The collision or focusing of gravitational waves can produce effects comparable to those of short-lived black holes that can be projected onto the hyperspace to produce a required speed modification. Well-known optical effects and four-dimensional rotation may also find application to hyperspace travel. Holy fuck, chat. Are you fucking kidding me? Okay. Why is Ashton excited? Well, because he basically just said that we can take gravitational waves and have them hit each other, and we can create a miniature black hole. What is a wormhole? Our endothermic event is the wormhole. He just explained this video right here. And this was, I don't know when this paper was published, but either he saw this MH370 video or he knew this was possible and helped develop this technology. The fact that a guy that was director at Lockheed Martin is explaining this in a scientific paper, this is our answers, guys. This is the answer. These are the people that know. Like, if anybody in this world knows about how anti-gravity works, it's the guys that were directors of the private military contractors that literally there's a law that the private military contractors have to be the ones to research it. What was the name of that law, chat? The Mansfield Amendment. Chupacabra, put the Mansfield Amendment on your timeline. Mansfield Amendment 1973. The Mansfield Amendment made it so the government was no longer allowed to research non-weapons based systems in the military. So for things that were not combat related and anti-gravity counted, those had to be researched at private military contractors. That is huge when it comes to the UFO phenomenon. Okay. Yes, it's actually the idea of the beams crossing right here is actually extremely similar to the idea of noise cancellation, because it's waves and you're canceling the waves out. That's what's happening with noise cancellation. Is you're having deconstructive interference. So it's basically decoherence, I think, or maybe coherence. I don't know, but you're having destructive interference happen with and that's what we're seeing here. The reason why it's a perfect triangle, that's not random. The perfect triangle is needed because it creates a 0 point. The 0 point is where the headphones are canceling out with the deconstructive interference. They're literally creating a 0 point of gravitational waves that hit. And what happens? You have a ripple effect. In fact, it breaks through the hyperspace. This is what Salvatore Pais is saying with respect to, this is how you break the Schwinger limit. Okay. You break the Schwinger limit and then boom. How do you break the Schwinger limit? Well, based on what we just read over here in this paper, you're breaking through hyperspace through the extra layer, and now you can go faster than light. That's what a wormhole is. Faster than light, relativistic travel. Okay, there you go. Damn, this shit's good, chat. It's like Mr. Wizard of 2424. You guys cracking me up, chat. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of these other ones. We're not going to look at all of them here. The piezoelectric crystal one, I'm interested because people told me to look into crystals. And piezoelectricity is one way to produce electricity through a squeezing of the lattice. So just squeezing the crystal causes electricity, which means that the lattice, the structure, the crystal structure, that being squeezed together is what causes electricity to like squirt out. Pretty interesting. Here we show the generation of high-frequency gravitational waves utilizing piezoelectric elements such as the ubiquitous film bulk acoustic resonators, FBARs, found in cell phones. Wait, so they're using piezoelectric crystals that are similar to the ones that are used in cell phones? As energized by its inexpensive magnetrons found in microwave ovens, generating gravity waves having a frequency of about 4.9 gigahertz. And their detection means of a new synchronous resonance techniques developed in China. Well, this is wild. This actually makes me wonder, like, this is how we have secret surveillance technology like this using gravity waves, high frequency ones, and nobody can detect them. It's like being able, it's like, how do you even describe it? It's because we can't feel frequencies like this unless you're like tuned into electromagnetic frequency. So people can't even detect it unless you have the right thing to look for it. It's like if you make a television, but there's no signal coming through. You need to have both sides be a match. China. Guys, China is the one who's developing the techniques, okay? China. Am I saying it right? China. Get some chow mein. It's like, sir, it's really racist when you say it. Like, no, that's how the waiter says it. The waiter's from Portland. I'm going to have to get that clip. Chow mein. Super racist, huh? Honestly, China, the chow mein thing's even more racist than the than the China thing. Chow mein. It's honestly the most racist thing you can say. If you guys don't get the joke, it's a Rick and Morty thing. The dad, they're at the Panda Express, and he goes, "I'm gonna get the chow mein," and they all laugh at him. It's honestly the funniest shit. Okay. High intensity lasers are used to generate and detect short pulse or high frequency gravitational waves in the laboratory. Okay, he just says it straight up, right? Frequencies in excess of 100,000 kilohertz. Pulse is less than whatever. Oh, so the pulse, the faster the pulse, the higher the frequency. Is that true? Is that the answer I've been looking for this whole time? So the faster the time dimension here, right? This is the time dimension. This is how fast the pulses are. Is this the attosecond part? So the attosecond is the faster the slower you get this time factor right here, the higher frequency you're going to be able to get, right? Because it's inversely proportionate. It is. Oh shit, Chad. We just figured it out. Yahtzee. I kept wondering how is an attosecond laser the answer? Well, the answer right here is because the faster you get your laser, the shorter you get this time duration down, the higher the frequency is. If your frequency is above 100,000 kilohertz, then yeah, we're making gravity waves. Bingo. Guys, I don't think you're going to be able to go to your garage and make a 100,000 kilohertz laser. If you can, then the government's probably going to knock on your door. I'm just saying that to you guys. There you go. These lasers, and so you wonder, like, why does the private labs? Why are the private labs the one that has this stuff? And the answer is because the private labs have the shit that they can, you know how expensive a laser like this is going to cost? These are going to be millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. So if you got millions of dollars and you want to buy a super high attosecond laser, the moment you do, the government's probably going to say, what the fuck are you using that for? Because it's basically a miniature particle accelerator. Laser is. And also they want to know if you're going to be making some black holes, probably. Okay, anything else related to this? So the laser passes through a static magnetic field of 15 Tesla. I don't know my Tesla calculations, but 15 sounds like a pretty good amount. It is sensitive to gravity wave amplitudes of 10 to the minus 32 and detects. So this is can detect high frequency gravitational waves. It is concluded that the gravitational wave generation and detection apparatus, so it does both. So this also is the other thing too, guys. People that say, oh, well, a radar can just detect things. They're not just detection mechanisms. A radar can generate electromagnetic fields, electromagnetic interaction. So this is why people are talking about like weather manipulation and earthquake stuff, because they know that radar is not just detection. The same way that this is not just a detection of gravity waves, it's also producer of gravity waves. You're taking the same tool and you're using it for a different purpose. 100%. And we see that there's even a relationship as well. Oh God. Geez, you ready for this, chat? If the high intensity lasers were spaceborne and at a lunar distance, i.e. the moon, the quadrupole formalism approximately holds for a gravitational wave generator laser target many gravity wavelengths apart, then the high frequency gravitational wave power would be about 10 to the, I don't know what that is, 2 to the 10 to the 3 maybe? 2 times 10 to the 3 watts. And the flux would be about, I don't know what these numbers mean. I could be wrong here, but it seems like they're talking about being able to pinpoint a target on Earth using a gravitational wave apparatus on the moon. Let me just make sure I'm saying that correctly. The lunar distance, literally on the moon or at the distance of the moon. So that's pretty wild. That seems very accurate. And yeah, now just like Z Jalapeno, like the first thing you're thinking about here is satellites. So of course we can have a gravity wave zapper beamer thing like this on a satellite. And really it's just a directed energy weapon. Although I would argue that a scalar weapon like this is like making and reducing energy at a distance is one thing, but to make a gravity wave on top of somebody, I mean, yeah, don't hit me that Ripple Moon. Honestly, Ripple Moon, maybe bring Ripple Moon back, chat. Maybe Ripple Moon was not just a meme, guys. Ripple Moon is Ripple Moon is more real than Flat Earth, guys. Ripple Moon is legit. Flat Earth is fake, but Ripple Moon, gravitational wave device on the moon, maybe. Can't rule it out at this point. Okay, the last one here. So this is the applications. So this lists out what types of stuff can you do. And at this point, you probably already have a pretty good idea if you've been watching this whole stream. So what can we do with high frequency gravitational wave? Ones with a frequency in excess of 100,000 hertz. So this is even much slower than nanosecond lasers. Multi-channel communications. So we can use it to communicate faster, maybe faster than the speed of light. I'm not sure. It definitely seems like it can probably go through like solid, like water at least. So you could have a communication system that goes right through water. It doesn't get disturbed. A remote means for causing perturbations of the motion of objects such as missiles. Oh, okay. Basically said we can use this as a directed energy weapon to shoot missiles out of the sky. There you go. There you go. Just listed it right there. Just calmly list it. Says, oh, by the way, I was director at Lockheed Martin, the aerospace division. And we can use it to cause perturbations of motion in objects such as missiles, bullets and ICBMs, spacecraft, land or water vehicles. I mean, so if you're in a submarine, you're just basically a sitting duck down there. If we find your submarine and we just shoot gravity waves down at you at your submarine, you're fucked. Your submarine is going to like explode. Hell, your plane is also fucked too, to be honest with you. Next time you guys feel a bunch of what is it? Next time you feel a bunch of turbulence in your airplane, you should wonder whether or not they're hitting with gravity waves from space. Not to get you guys paranoid or anything like that. No, the reason why they're not doing that, guys, is because I'm pretty sure your plane's going down instantly if they do. Okay. remote coalescing of clouds of hazardous vapors. I mean, there's your weather manipulation right there. He's just saying it with nicer words. You can move radioactive dust by changing the gravitational field in their vicinity. So you can move clouds around as well. There you go. So now for my boy, Into Thin Air. There you go, Into Thin Air. Bob Baker wrote a scientific paper. He was a director at Lockheed Martin. You know, no big deal. 2005 said you can coalesce clouds and hazardous vapors using gravity waves. The potential for through Earth or through water X-rays in order to observe subterranean structures. So if you're into the mole people or cryptids or whatever, here you go. You can use gravity waves to basically penetrate the Earth and find like structures and gaps and things like that, geological formations, create a transparent ocean. Oh, so basically you can just see through the ocean as well. The ocean basically becomes transparent with gravity waves. View three-dimensional building interiors. Oh, great, great. So basically they can see the inside of any type of device, buried devices, and the potential for remotely disrupting the gravitational field in a region of space. So basically we can, if all those things aren't good enough, we're just going to fuck with your gravity. So you're just going to walk around, you're just going to get hit by a gravity beam. Next thing you know, you're going to have turbo cancer and who knows? Turbo cancers. Okay. The utilization of possible high-frequency gravitational wave telescopes as a navigational aid by viewing the anisotropic or patterned high-frequency gravitational relic cosmic background above, on, or under the ground without reliance on GPS satellites is also noted. So you can also use it as a navigational capability, and you don't need GPS. Many of the applications are discussed in the context of the technology, and several approaches to the generation and possible focusing of high-frequency gravitational waves are referenced. A derivation of the jerk formulation of the quadrupole approximation for high-frequency gravitational wave power. So when it comes to the jerk as well, when he talks about it, it's like take a block of space and then just move it around. Move the block of space around. What's going to happen? If you move this block of space and replace it over here, now I'm instantaneously from over here to over here. It's a wormhole. So when you combine your gravitational waves, what are we getting? I guess we're getting a wormhole. At least that's what that says. Okay, guys, I think that's going to be it for tonight. I hope you had a good, enjoyed the stream. I got to try to get my message out to Aaron Rodgers tomorrow before I leave for Vegas. No stream on Friday. Sorry, guys. Taking a break. Gonna go play some poker. Wish me luck. All of you better be wishing me luck. I need that luck. I'm going to have an awesome time. Going to hang out with some people. And then we'll be back on Monday with new Malaysian Airlines Monday stream, guys. So, going to be sweet, guys. You guys have a good one. Can we make gamma rays? Yeah, we pump the frequency up, baby. I don't know. We have to do the comparison of what attosecond is to frequency and see how high the frequency goes. Probably pretty high, though. Okay, guys. You guys have a good night. I'm going to go pass out. This has been sweet. Let's play us out with our favorite, the Cypher. Peace, everybody.
Out in the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab, they play.
Fighting forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow. Thin shell formalism, plate so fine. Spherical geometry, we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Forces balancing the plates, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound, a shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow. From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring